Outriders Worldslayer release date is almost here. You can get in early if you pre-order the game, and we have all the release date info as well as everything that's going to be happening actually in the update. What can you play? What can you enjoy? I've got all the release date info for you. I'll do it right here at the beginning of the stream. Typically, we go live in the mornings, and I do like a really short update, and then I kick it over to the live talk show. So make sure you hit subscribe and the bell button if you like these types of shows, if you like these types of back and forth. I'm not going to do the traditional update where I read through everything, where I go to the scene. I am going to read through all the info for you. There was a bit too much, and most people aren't really going to care about this info for like a short 4-minute upload, but they will, I think, enjoy this as a live discussion VOD, so we will keep that here for you. That way you can comb through all of the information if you need it. If you are trying to play early, again, you do need to pre-order, and it will go live on the 28th around noon Eastern, and then it goes live for everybody on the 30th if you are not pre-ordering. There are also reviews available. We will be diving into gameplay, so if you're watching this and you want to see my gameplay, that will also be on this channel as a VOD available to you. For those of you who watch on a regular basis, I will be out of town starting on the 29th of June, but everything will resume as normal on July the 6th. We are taking a bit of a trip for the 4th with the fam. And we're going to be enjoying that time up in Ohio, where I am, where I'm from. So I'm pulling this from Green Man Gaming. If you're looking to play Worldslayer, it is officially releasing on June 30th. It will be available on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Series S and X, Google Stadia, and PC. And PC platformers, you're going to have to use Steam and the Epic Store. So you can, nab it from Steam and Epic, whichever is your preference, whichever you prefer. Now, there is an all-new standalone campaign. I think many people were only focused on the Endgame. We're only focused on the new Endgame activity, but there will be an actual standalone campaign. It brings a sizable new campaign that is entirely standalone from its counterpart in the base game, facing off against an emerging faction of mercenaries spearheaded by an enigmatic leader. Worldslayer has players traveling to a series of previously undiscovered locations, such as Driftwater and Glacier's Edge, as they tangle with all new enemies, bosses, and cataclysmic world events. Now, we're seeing predictions that this campaign's landing in about the 7-hour frame. I saw 7 to 10 depending on how you approach it. That's actually not bad at all for a DLC. That's pretty good. Anything, I think, around the 8 to 10 hours is what most people come to expect. Sometimes campaigns in a DLC last quite a bit shorter than that. They end up being like 3 to 6 hours. There's also new gear and loot, which makes sense. It's a loot-based game. They have continued to say this is not a live service game, although I feel like they're sort of treating it like a live service game, even though they're claiming that it's not one. Each class will get new 5 pieces of legendary armor sets, but there will also be generic 3-piece legendary armor sets that the classes can equip as well. There will be a new range of bonuses for those 5 and 3-piece armor sets. People Can Fly has also said that some of the previous legendary armor sets will be revamped when Worldslayer launches, so simply put, all the gear and all the loot that you have now will likely be different and updated and potentially changed. That also isn't even getting into the Apocalypse gear, which I'll talk about in a moment. There is the PAX tree. The biggest new addition to Outriders expansion brings to the base game this edition of the new PAX tree, which will unlock once you hit level 30 in the main Worldslayer campaign, which I'm already level 30. We'll be able to check that out right away. It's a completely separate class from the existing trio that Outriders already provides. It unlocks nodes in the PAX trees, and it requires special PAX points that are earned by progressing through world events rather than grinding your way to a particular level. The PAX tree has 4 classes, and within each there are 2 branches that allow players to specialize or hybridize their Outrider depending on their playstyle. And then should you want to mess with it, you can always respec the PAX tree at no extra cost, which is pretty nice. Most of the times, games that let you respec for free, I'm pretty, pleased with that, because then you can change things as you go. The 4 PAX tree classes and branches, you have the Devastator, right, which can do Wrecker or Tectonic Shifter. Pyromancer can do Gunblazer or Pyromaniac, and then the Technomancer can do Desolator or Overseer, and the Trickster can do Spectre or Exploiter. And then the new Ascension progression system, part of its quest to seemingly overhaul the Outriders experience, Worldslayer introduces Ascension, which is a new protracted progression system that provides players with an additional set of levels to gain, which in turn makes your Outrider more powerful rather than just providing extra gear or unlocking additional content. Tanking more than 100 hours to properly max out, Ascension levels are gained once you hit level 30 in Worldslayer and begin collecting experience points from fallen foes. And then Ascension has categories. There are 4 that you can pile your experience points into. There's Anomaly, Brutality, Endurance, and Prowess. And within each category, there are 5 options like cooldown reduction, higher damage output. So you can specialize your character even further. So you've got the PAX tree. You now have Ascension as well. And then there is Apocalypse tiers. So Outriders Worldslayer does this to replace the previously implemented challenge tiers with new Apocalypse tiers, providing a means for players to tune the game difficulty in accordance with higher or lower gear rewards. The new Apocalypse system will affect all aspects of Outriders. So if you're wanting to go, further than the world tiers that were already there, Apocalypse is there, which means you're going to be getting the Apocalypse gear, and that will drop from the fallen enemies. Now, Apocalypse gear will be better than your current gear. From what we've heard, it has essentially got extra mod slots. We'll have to experiment with that and see what that looks like. And all of this can be chased in the brand new endgame thing, the Taria Gratar, the Trial of Taria Gratar, a terrible name to be fair. I think it's super awkward to say, and it's kind of confusing. It's like I don't even know what I'm saying. But the Trial of Taria Gratar will be this endgame content loop where you can target specific loot that you want, take different tracks, and then replay. And it does seem to be their new era of endgame content. This could be the standard going forward for Outriders Worldslayer. So that's everything that you might need to know about what is in Outriders Worldslayer, which we will be checking out and diving in today as soon as it's available. I've got it pre-ordered on my Xbox. Everything's installed and up to date. We'll also be checking out the Assassin's Creed Valhalla new game mode today as well, but that's much later. So just wanted to get that out of the way right at the beginning of the episode to say, hey, here's every possible thing you could need to know about the game and about everything that they are doing. So I'm curious if you guys, the trial is not randomized, unfortunately. No, there's predetermined paths that you go down to pursue the gear that you're looking for if you're targeting particular things. So they have that set up to do that, where if you want to target a particular piece of armor or gun or whatever, you can do that. Thank you, Old Soul, for a 15-month milestone, and it's a tier 2. Did I just double-dip that ship? You did just double-dip that ship. Guys, do me a favor. Go through the morning ritual. We just started the stream, so make sure you're on live chat. Make sure you smash the like button. I am sorry for the late start. I actually intended to schedule the stream for 9:30. I knew that I was going to be starting late this morning for a couple of reasons. We didn't want to be up against that 3-hour window or wall when the game goes live, because the next stream will be just gameplay. We will be diving into Outriders Worldslayer gameplay for our second show today, and I didn't want this stream to end up too long, so I was like, okay, I'll start at 9:30. I just must have been on autopilot when I scheduled it. So, Matthew, hitting an entire year of membership. Welcome back. Thank you for hitting that milestone and renewing your membership. There will be a member stream today. We're going to fill you in on everything we kind of have planned for members going into July. We're going to ramp up the amount of members-only content on the channel as opposed to going over to Reforge Radio. We were going over there, every day, and we were enjoying it, but we didn't feel like that was a worthy show to continue, at least not in that form. We did get good feedback on the rundown. People did seem to enjoy getting that gaming news. That could live on as maybe a weekly segment or a periodic segment for members only, just because it doesn't really work all that well on YouTube, and we really didn't think it was going to work well to support like a channel growth on that wasn't really going to work. So I miss you already. Thank you, Aaron. I will be gone starting tomorrow. We'll be back and everything will resume on July the 6th. That is coming. I listened to Skill Up's review and he said some of the levels are brutal for single players. He was confused why they designed it that way. Being able to choose a path and go for that specific item that you want sounds like a win. Yo, what's good, Feed? I see you in the chat. Thank you for being here. Honestly, I'm okay with you starting late this time because I had trouble getting up this morning after falling asleep at 3 a.m. Yeah, we had a late night ourselves last night. My son, we had a bottle break. It like fell out of the fridge like a week ago, and we did everything we could to clean it up. Was it an Ale 8? I think it was an Ale 8. And we vacuumed, we swept 2 and 3 times. I was on my hands and knees using a paper towel to get all the teeny pieces. And there must have been one stuck in my slipper or somebody's shoe that fell out. It was the teeniest, tiniest piece of glass, but it got stuck in like he stepped on it. So it was like stuck in his toe, and it wasn't even really in there, but he would not let me get it out. He was like not letting me use the tweezers. So we were like soaking his foot, and then I would dry it and soak it and dry it, and eventually he was fighting me, and the paper towel scraped up and just scraped it right out of his foot. It came right out. I was like, it took us probably 45 minutes to get him to calm down, like let us do it, because they get so spooked by the tweezers thing, you know. I'm more outraged for the planned late start than the late Lono, but that's okay. We forgive you. Yeah. I'm gonna get Outriders Worldslayer because I like the game. But I have too many great games in my backlog. From people who played early access, solo play wasn't an issue. I think Skill Up's take might just be incorrect. Skill doesn't have a good build, of course. He's going to get destroyed. Yeah, it's tough for somebody like that who hasn't been playing if he just jumps back in like that, right? You know what I'm saying? New ring. Oh, you noticed? Yeah. I've got my wedding ring. Yeah, my wife got me a ring for Father's Day. And she double checked with me. She's like, "Is this corny? Like, is this cheesy or whatever?" So she double checked with me. It's the drive shaft ring from Lost, and because Charlie's one of my favorite characters because of his redemption arc. And you know, I've had a bit of my own personal redemption arc in different ways and things that we haven't really gotten into on the stream. So I was like, no, that's a great gift. I used to wear rings in high school. Like, I like rings. I haven't really worn a ring other than my wedding ring for a really long time. So, yeah, I thought it was cool. I thought it was pretty cool that you could even get one, you know. But yeah, he was one of my favorite characters for a variety of reasons. Broke a light bulb in my shoe room and cleaned vigorously last year. Next day walking home, I found a shard of glass in my shoe. Oddly enough, it didn't cut me. Yeah, it's so difficult. I would have never guessed that a glass bottle would break that way, right? If you would have asked me, does a glass bottle break into a bunch of big pieces or teeny tiny pieces? I'd have been like, a bunch of big pieces, right? No. The teeniest, tiniest pieces. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous the way that it played out, you know. I changed my CPU coolant to performance in the BIOS, and it's not making a difference. It's still running hotter than it used to. We might be in trouble when I get into gameplay later. I am a little worried. Depending on how it's tempered, I guess. Been a while. Chad, how's it going? Love the plates in the back. Love the vibe. Keep it going. Yo, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Kodiak. It's for this reason that we buy plastic bottles. I'm assuming it's because plastic, excuse me, glass bottles, there we go. Glass bottles are often recycled. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's why it broke into so many teeny tiny pieces. Because glass, you can basically recycle it for like forever. You just melt it down and reuse it. But I'm wondering if when you do that, you weaken, like it doesn't break into those big pieces anymore. So, Ronnie, I got some messages. Oh, meetings to knock out. I'll be lurking. All right, old soul. Thank you so much. A lot of reviewers don't do well with games where you have to farm gear because they have limited amount of time before the review goes live. The thing with Outriders is if you're going to play solo, you have to have a very specific build. Do you know what I'm saying? You have to have a very, very specific build. Might want to disassemble and reapply thermal paste. I had the guys locally do it, so maybe they just didn't do a good job. I don't know. It's also an old rig, and these CPUs are known for running hot. I could go into the BIOS and turn the coolant system up to full and just see. To recycle glass bottles, they turn it to sand. Oh, really? Skill Up played it for a week? Well, did he have a strong build for solo play, and who was he playing as would be my question. I'm not discounting his experience. I just know in this game, if you're going to play solo endgame content, you have to have a very particular build. You know what I'm saying? You can't just go running endgame Outriders content willy-nilly. I have a metal allergy. I tend to only wear my wedding ring when I'm at an event. Yeah, my original wedding ring started messing with me, so now I've got like one. She gets me those. I had one for a long time, like the rubber ones, just because I don't have to worry about, you know, losing it. Hey, somebody ordered some coffee. What's good, Anodyne? Is it you? Somebody ordered some dark roast. Before 1 is 0, the first Reforged roast order of the day. Thank you for ordering that coffee. Here at Reforged Gaming, we do have our own coffee, Reforged Roast. If you've never tried our coffee, you really should try it. We have a light roast and a dark roast, and it has balanced acidity. If you've never tried coffee before with balanced acidity, you want to make sure and try it. I haven't watched his review yet, but Ralph doesn't do willy-nilly. Yeah, it's hard to know though. Like, how committed are you to the game? How much time did he spend on his build? Because there were builds that were not going to work as a solo player. You would need other people with you to support everything you've picked. So I don't know. You know, best dark roast rounds. Thank you. You can play it solo. You just need a great build. Solo is always going to feel strange due to solo aggro and the mechanic of healing through your class's passive. Right, that would be my other question is, like, did he play the original game a lot solo? Because Outriders, when I played Outriders when it first came out, we will be getting into Outriders Worldslayer when it goes live. If you got any questions about all the details, we have basically all the info that you could probably hope for. But yeah, whenever I played it, I remembered as a Devastator, things got easier when I was by myself, right? Things got easier when I was by myself because I could kill everything. But there are sections of the game where if you're by yourself, it's going to be terrible because you're literally the only thing drawing aggro. So every target in the room is shooting you. Needing a greater specific build means it's not solo friendly. Well, endgame content in looters is almost never, solo friendly. I don't know why you would come to a game like Outriders and expect that. That's kind of bizarre. Like, now if he was playing through the campaign and he felt that way, then I would be like, okay, that's legitimate criticism. But if you're going into the actual endgame content and you're expecting it to be solo friendly, I'm like, that's just not they didn't design the game that way, right? They just didn't design the game that way. They designed this game to be played with other players, especially once you get in the end game. You know, I've not necessarily played a loot-based game where I go to the end game and expect it to be solo friendly. You know, again, I don't know if he was talking about the campaign, or if he was talking about the. Was he talking about the campaign or was he talking about the end game? Skill Up didn't have much good to say about this expansion. He was in the story, really. The level scales to the amount of players. Solo should be easier with the exception of the aggro. They designed to scale. They did. His solo comments weren't about endgame for the most part. Well, that would be a consistent criticism that Outriders got when it first came out. When Outriders first came out, that was the criticism that people gave it. They said, listen, if I'm by myself, I can't do anything. So much of the areas are really, really narrow funnels, and I've got to go into the narrow funnel, and you've got me getting shot by 8 people. I can't get through. I'm dead immediately. That was a complaint in the release of Outriders, so it sounds like maybe they didn't shed that design flaw of, like, sometimes people just want to kind of rock by themselves. He'll probably never play the game. He honestly reviewed it. I mean, I usually trust his reviews. I just remember when he reviewed Anthem, it did seem like he wasn't super familiar with how the combat was supposed to go, and I didn't necessarily fault him for that. That game did a really poor job of explaining the combo system and how it was all supposed to work. I almost exclusively played solo, not by choice, mainly because public matchmaking is super laggy and almost no friends to play it. I mean, once people beat this through the story, they don't need to replay it anymore, so new people don't have as many people to team with for the campaign, and your friends will not have much of a reason either. Yeah, your campaign should always be really accessible. I 100% will always agree with that. The not designed for solo argument gets completely thrown out the window for me when they have scaling. Well, not necessarily, no, Eugene, because just because they have scaling doesn't mean something is designed for solo, right? When you go into any loot-based RPG game and they make things harder when there's more people in the room, that doesn't necessarily mean from the ground up it's been designed with the solo player in mind. If anything, they might be saying certain skills, when combined properly, will be so strong, we actually need to sort of scale to the group. Not that the default scale is solo, but that when a group is properly optimized, synergized, and playing well together, we're going to need to buff some of these enemies, or it's not going to be good endgame content. Typically, in my experience, the best content, endgame content, is designed for a group, and then if you attempt it solo, great. Now, there's exceptions to this. I know there's like achievements in like Destiny dungeons where they design it to be soloed first, and then they sort of go up from there, and then I don't know what they do. I don't think they make things harder if you're in a group or whatever, but they definitely design it to be soloed for that achievement. It's designed for solo. It's just not designed well for solo. Again, I feel like we're splitting hairs. If you go into the end game of almost any loot-based game and you try to play it solo, you're definitely grading against the most common themes in end game design, which is there's lots of enemies and they're really strong. And that just is not, that's inherently not good for a solo player. It just isn't. Because you're going to be getting shot from all these different angles, and it's not designed for, if one person's in the room, it's not going to go well. You're going to have to come up with really unique positioning, unique strategies. You're going to have to be spec'd out to heal yourself very, very consistently, and the healing in Outriders typically comes from damaging or killing enemies. Every raid and every game is designed for a team. I don't see how this is any different for Outriders. Yeah, the trial of Tarya Guitar is not really what we're even talking about, because it sounded to me like, from what people are saying, he was saying there were elements of the campaign that were really tough solo, and he doesn't really understand that. And I would agree with that, right? I would 100% agree with that. Like, I don't think the campaign should be grading for a solo player. It shouldn't. It should flow well and be enjoyable for the solo player. Skillet was saying the new campaign content's like 2 to 3 hours, and a majority of the expansion's quality of life changes. And for most people, if he had to ask, is it worth coming back to or buying, he'd say no. Besides for the invested fans. Well, the things I was seeing on the campaign said 7 hours, so it's possible that if maybe a straight rush playthrough is 2 to 3, maybe 7 is if you're actually doing the side stuff, if there's side stuff. I thought we read 7 hours in most of the stuff that we read. Maybe that was an estimate. Again, as a content creator, you're probably trying to go pretty quickly, so who knows? He may have skipped stuff that didn't feel important to the story. I don't know. I don't know. Is it really 2 to 3 hours? I played it a lot longer than 2 to 3 hours. I didn't finish the story. I don't know. Then again, I didn't bum rush. Well, you couldn't have played unless you somehow got early access mode. There's no way you played the Worldslayer campaign yet. Team Endgame isn't 100% true. If it were, they would not have enemy scaling for solos. Didn't someone say he played for a week? IGN said 7 hours. Yeah, they said 7 hours. The 7 hours is probably everything they could squeeze out of it. Oh, you were in the beta. So Mo's saying he was in the beta and doesn't know if 2 to 3 hours is accurate. Santa Monica's testing our patience. Still no announcements for State of Play. I don't know what they're doing. More than likely, they're going to announce the Sony State of Play during the Sony event tonight. There's a Sony event tonight where they're going to be talking about TVs and monitors, or headphones and monitors and stuff. Yeah, it's out today. If you pre-ordered, we'll be playing at noon, which is in a couple of hours. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about Outriders Worldslayer, all the details and info that you might need. Make sure and smash that like button. We could easily hit 200 likes right away. Generally with SkillUp, if he's reviewing a game in a genre he doesn't like that much, the review is usually not very good. I'm fairly certain he likes looters and shooters, doesn't he? I mean, didn't he cut his teeth on The Division? I don't know if... And I think like Division and Destiny coverage was always really good for him. I don't know. I'm fairly certain that looters are his kind of... They're like his cup of tea, are they not? Looking for my... I got like a... Oh, there it is. I was like, I got a dry spot on my hand. It's driving me crazy. I forgot to put some lotion on it this morning. He likes looters. That's what I'm saying. Isn't he like known for looter shooters? That's like his thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think it's because he doesn't like the game genre. Listen, I didn't expect, I'll be honest with you. I did not expect Outriders Worldslayer to be tectonic and world-changing. I didn't. It seemed to me like it was a nice addition, and if anything, it seemed to me like they were experimenting with a new end game concept, okay? The trial of Triaru Guitar, or whatever the frick it's called, I feel like what they did with that, what they're doing with that, I should say, is that is meant to be like the new end game format for them, right? SkillUp gave the Dumpster Fire Returnal a good review because Returnal is an award-winning game. It won Game of the Year as soon as it got out of the Western market. It's a strange way to admit that you sucked at the game to call it a dumpster fire. I mean, it's okay. Not a lot of people got past the first boss. Maybe Cooking Mom is more your speed. Min-maxers will have a blast with the Apocalypse gear. Yeah, it sounds like they're structuring experiments for the new end game with the trial of Trier Guitar, or whatever the frig it is. And you know, that with that and the Apocalypse gear and the PAX tree and the Ascension stuff, it's like, okay, they're basically, as far as I can tell, they're building foundation for the future. You know what I mean? They're building the foundation for the future. Returnal best game in a long time. You know, he probably isn't very good at it. You know what I mean? He probably couldn't get out of the first room. He did not crap on the game. He said he liked the game. He very clearly stated that the trials do not scale down for solo players. Watch the first 5 minutes. Oh, he said the trials do not scale down for solo players. Yeah, I think people need to understand. Every time you say the trials name, just say it worse and worse every time. Yeah, the trials of... yeah. You know, we just start talking like the Swedish chef from frickin' the Muppets. Will it be tectonic and world-changing? No, probably not. Will it be a good grind in the new third mod slot and targeted gear chasing? Most likely. I'm telling you, this is an experiment. This Worldslayer is less about creating a tectonic end game, or I'm sorry, DLC. It's less about creating a tectonic DLC, and it's way more about them testing what will work for a really good end game. That's what they're doing. Do you see what I'm saying? They are absolutely not doing this because they think that this is like, oh yeah, this is going to completely change the game and we're going to have like 1 million players. No, I think it's a giant experiment. That's what I think it is. I'm not very positive. That's what I think they're doing. I think they are creating a sort of testing ground for what they could do with the next, maybe the next game, maybe the next DLC, you know, maybe the next DLC, maybe it's not, maybe it's about the next game, because I know Division did this with their 1.8. They basically said, listen, we're going to be giving a sort of testing ground to it, you know, and we're gonna be testing out new endgame loops, new endgame systems. Now, a lot of those endgame systems in Division 1.8, sadly, is something that didn't seem to affect the next game. Like, the next game kind of just sort of sat there. It was like the end game in Division 2, I know, is getting better, and everyone's like kind of praising it, but it sadly didn't launch with the greatest of end games, you know? Didn't it sound like a few months ago People Could Fly are done with Outriders after this? I don't know what you're referring to, Eugene. I don't remember what we might have read that said that. It sounded like they didn't it sounded like they didn't have an end game in plan. It was like they were going to continue doing stuff even though it didn't generate the profit or whatever. I thought we read it as the opposite. It was like, even though everything happened, and that they didn't have the greatest profit results, I thought they had plans. We covered it, their quarterly reports. I thought we were shocked that they were still going to continue doing stuff. I remember we thought it sounded like they were slowly turning into live service because they continually said it wouldn't be. We'd need to find the article, Eugene. I thought we read it and thought, this sounds backwards. This sounds like you would be no longer supporting the game, and they talked as if they were going to continue supporting the game. Do you remember? It was like, we're not making any money, you know, but then it was like, we're still going to continue with our content plan or something to that effect. I may be completely misremembering the article now. I played Outriders for the first time during the Steam free trial last week. I enjoyed it so much I pre-ordered WORLDSLAYER. The game had a very fun and rewarding progression and feel to it. I remember it being like, we're done after this. All right, hang on. Let's see. Let's see if we can find the article. People Can Fly, future plans for Outriders. I don't even remember. Do you remember the name of the article? Do you remember the name of the article? I don't even remember. It was. I got one here from May. People Can Fly updates its new games pipeline and includes 5 projects. Outriders developer People Can Fly is currently working on 5 games, including 2 AAA titles for Square Enix and Take-Two. People Can Fly is currently working on a bunch of new games. The studio is developing 5 titles. The developer has outlined its slate of games. Okay, so it looks like here, Outriders is going to get future developers support and presentation of WORLDSLAYER expansion, and that's releasing, it says here, on June 30th, so that didn't change after the presentation. Yeah, it seems like you might be right. Outriders has plans to be a franchise, not just a game, from 3 weeks ago. Can't read that guy. Outriders Worldslayer upcoming changes to base game. Outriders expansions looks like a different game, says PC Gamer. That was 2 weeks ago. People Can Fly. I can't find it. This is their quarterly report. Can you find choice quotes? I don't want to click a download and open it. My computer's acting crazy lately. Outriders didn't make a profit in 2021. People Can Fly confirms. That's from Tweaktown. Outriders Worldslayer expansion breakdown. I don't know. We might have to use that article. I'm not going to tell you who I'm reading. It's a few weeks away. It was patched and updated frequently, but it didn't have roadmaps. Why was this decision sin? Did we see as a fundamental? What lessons from Outliers we carry for future projects? Finally, what's your favorite class? Hang on, there's got to be a question to justify this headline, right? This guy says, People Can Fly in Square Enix. I think about Outriders IP as the most important new IP in the Square Enix portfolio, looking at it more in terms of building a franchise, not a single game. We want to support Outriders in the long run, and we're eager to expand it as much as possible. As for next steps, currently we are focused on the release of Outriders Worldslayer and not able to reveal any further plans. Right? That's it. So, you know what I'm saying? This is where I got the 2 to 3 hour content quote. All right, hang on a second. Let's see what old Skill Up has to say. So it sounds like to me that's an article. That's literally an article from June. That's an article from June 7th. They did an interview and basically said, we've got future plans. We've got further plans. We see this game as a franchise. Let's see what old Skill Up has to say. Somebody got a 23-second clip from his.
I know some people pick up expansions for the campaigns alone, and if you're one of those people, you may be wondering, is this worth the $35 asking price? Obviously, the value of $1 is relative, but if I'm pressed, I would probably say no. Like I said, we're talking 2 to 3 hours here. It's not a great storyline, and while the mission design is strong, I don't think it's showing you anything you haven't already seen or experienced in the base game. It was not good. I know some people pick up expansions for the campaigns.
Okay, so he says right there that it is it's about 2 to 3 hours. And he says that if he was really pressed, he would say no, it's not worth it. Was that People Can Fly? Okay. I got the chance to speak with the CEO of People Can Fly. That was the CEO of People Can Fly, saying that they have long-term plans to make it a franchise, not just a single game, which is right in line with what I have been saying about Worldslayer. I think Worldslayer could be the last big thing they do with Outriders, and they have plans to do another game, right? They have plans to do another game, and Worldslayer is that groundwork. That's what I think. Everything they're doing with Worldslayer, with the trial of Couture and the Ascension and the Apocalypse gear and the PAX trees, all those things to me point to they're testing a better endgame. They want an ongoing endgame. Maybe an open world Outriders 2. I don't think the CEO of People Could Fly would sit down in June, like 20 days before Worldslayer comes out, and be like, oh no, yeah, we have future plans. We can't really talk about that. And we see Outriders as a franchise, not a single game. Okay? Well, he just framed Worldslayer for you, right? I didn't read that interview. I didn't read that interview before. And that's what I was saying, not moments ago. I said, I get that my spidey sense, my inclination, my instinct is that Worldslayer is a test for basically the next game. They're not just doing a DLC. They're seeing, can we build something that will last? Like I said, Skill Up and other people that have already played it, and they're saying most of the DLC is system and quality of life updates, which would be exactly what I'm talking about. They added new content, sure, but they're really just trying to get you in so you fiddle with the systems, react to the systems, and now they have all that they need to build the next game. I think Outriders was... Here's the way to look at it. I think Outriders was successful enough as a demo and a launch title for them to say, listen, let's keep going, let's go. Like, we didn't make profit, there's reasons for that. We had a rocky launch, there's reasons for that. We had problems and bugs and issues. Okay, but as a brand, I think that they think that the brand is strong. Could we get a couple more likes, man? We're getting close to 500 people here. Welcome on in. If you've never been here before, this is Reforged Gaming. We do talk shows all throughout the week. I am a safe for work broadcaster. You can hit subscribe in confidence. A lot of people throw me on in the background of their day like a video game podcast or a radio show. And because I'm safe for work, you can do that without concern about what I'm going to say or how I'm going to say it. We will be diving into Outriders Worldslayer gameplay after this. This is more of a talk show to kind of start the day. I will be out of town starting tomorrow. We will get back and everything will resume as normal on July the 6th. Yes, July the 6th, everything resumes as normal. So if you subscribe and you're like, where'd that guy go? That would be why. I am taking a little bit of a break and a trip with the fam. I actually think Skill Up is a bit overrated. He focuses too much on story and too little on content loop and endgame, in my opinion. I actually would agree that he has a pretty heavy bias towards story. I felt that his Anthem review was way too focused on that. I actually think with his intellect and his ability to dissect the game, he could have made a far better and still scathing review of Anthem. Like, I think he could have shredded Anthem, but in a much better way. He did like a flyover bomb drop on it and was like, that wasn't a great review. He didn't get down into the meat of the real problems. It was just, there's no cover for combat, okay? It's not a cover-based shooter. And he was like, the campaign wasn't that great. He was looking for a Mass Effect style game, you know, but then he also said whenever he would go back to the town, he didn't want to talk to everybody. And I'm like, well, that's where all the story is. Like, one of the better stories was the guy that split himself into 3 versions of himself, and the voice acting was brilliant. And if you didn't want to go back to town and talk to anybody, you didn't get to experience that, right? Now, obviously, it wasn't Mass Effect. It wasn't BioWare level storytelling, because it wasn't that kind of game. Right? I was disappointed, not because I was like, I'm defending Anthem. I was like, number one, you set up an expectation the game never set out to aim to hit. Like, no, I never once thought when I was buying Anthem, I was buying some crazy, strong, story-driven BioWare game. I was like, it's a looter. Like, what do you do? You know what I mean? And again, had he busted down the systems and the problems and the endgame vacancy, his review would have been so much better. It's like, homie, shred the game, sure, but shred it for the right reasons. You know what I'm saying? He talked about the endgame in his review as well, and he played the Tyre guitar stuff as well. It plays the cutscenes every time and the credits for the expansion, as well as your character always saying the same stuff. Really? So he did review the endgame content loop. See? There you go. He's saying it's not that great. The middle part. The developer says there can be no assurance that net proceeds from the sale of Outriders in future periods will be sufficient for the publisher to recover the costs incurred and pay royalties to the group. Yeah, that doesn't mean they won't continue to make content, though. Like, again, the CEO said they don't see it as a single game, they see it as a franchise. He said that 20 days ago. So, unless he's just totally peacocking so that WorldSlayer does well, which I guess I could see that being the angle, but I don't know. I don't think the CEO literally 20 days ago would be like, we see this as a franchise and not a single game. I'm telling you, he's framing WorldSlayer when he says that. They'll continue to bleed money. Well, no, I would say they would get new funding for the next game. They would definitely end Outriders the first game, 100%. They would stop working on it, that project would come to a close, and then they would get funding for the next game based on what they did with the demo and its success, the brand awareness that the game has. Like, a lot of people are familiar with the name, and all that they're going to learn from WorldSlayer could give them enough ammo to say, hey, fund the next game. It will work. We can make a successful and profitable live service game, right? So we could be saying the same thing. Like, he's saying we see it as a franchise and not a single game. You're saying the first game isn't going to make any money. Funding from who? I don't know. Whoever published the first game. Square owns the IP. Then they'll fund it, right? People Can Fly developed it. Square owns the IP. So, you know, Square would come in and say, all right, we'll fund the next one to try to recoup what we lost on the first, given how much you've learned, improved the game, how much brand awareness the game actually has, how successful the demo was. You have a good actual footprint of influence. Like, I'm not saying that the game's here for the long haul. I'm saying the CEO of the company 20 days ago said, we see this as a franchise and not a single game. So he's either just blowing absolute vapor and smoke and it means nothing, or they have plans. Like, he literally said, I can't talk about our future plans. I mean, again, he could be blowing smoke, or he could be like, you know, they've got the green light. They may have gotten the green light in the background to be like, listen, this first game kind of fell on its face, but you've put things back together. And again, if Square is well aware that the profitability of Outriders is directly linked to that stupid Game Pass deal that they did, they may be like, all right, listen, that was our fault. we could probably make a whole lot more money on this game if it's an actual live service game, sells at its price, and then it's properly monetized. They may be looking at player behavior and making a really strong case that, like, listen, we could make a ton of money on this franchise. We just need to set it up in a more traditional live service game system with seasons and with the micro store with cosmetics. They may 100% be looking at it and saying, what we did was absolutely not the game's fault. Like, the game was certainly to blame for some of the, like, lack of sales and the popularity problems. But my gosh, they set this game up to be a bleeding cow from day one. They were like, oh, it's going to be on Game Pass. Before it came out, after people pre-ordered, that's a really great way to tick off your player base before they've even shot a bullet in the game. Exactly, the Game Pass deal ruined sales. Yeah, if they're looking at the financials and they're looking at the player reports, they may have a lot of confidence in the franchise itself to say these types of games are huge. There's only one game out there that's even remotely in this category. Well, two, I guess. You've got The Division and then you've got Destiny. You've got one that's in a similar pattern of repairing itself and rebuilding itself. And then Destiny is probably in its best state that it's ever been, with predictability, loyal fan base, and profitability, right? Warframe, not really. I don't know if Warframe is in the same category as Division 2 and Destiny. It doesn't feel as looter-based in my mind. I could be wrong, but it just doesn't have the same feel. You know what I mean? Final mission dialogue. What else is old Skill Up saying here? Let's pull it up. I mean, we do reaction content here now, and I don't think he would. We would probably not upset him to listen to a clip here. Hang on a second.
The way the story is handled during this event further compounds that feeling of repetition. This is essentially the last story mission for the expansion, and every time you do a new run, your character spouts the same expository dialogue, like they're seeing everything for the first time, and all the cutscenes roll every single time, and when you defeat the final boss, the end credits roll every single time. Like I said, it feels like a single final mission that you are forced to run repeatedly, rather than a true endgame activity. The way the story is handled during this event further compounds that feeling of repetition.
Did you hear what he said?
This is essentially the last story mission for the expansion, and every time you do a new run, your character spouts the same expository dialogue, like they're seeing everything for the first time, and all the cutscenes roll every single time, and when you defeat the final boss,
it doesn't make any sense
every single time. Like I said, it feels like a single...
That doesn't make an ounce of sense. That doesn't make an ounce of sense. Why would you do that? Why would you... Again, that could just be a simple update. That could literally be a day one patch. So, I mean, he might make allowance in his video. He's smart enough to know that might be a literal day one patch, right? To be like, oh yeah, oops, yeah, that's gonna play every time. Sorry about that. That's just a rough edge. So I'm imagining that that's a day one patch, that we might even not deal with today, right? They're playing a beta. Well, early access a lot of the times, because he's been playing it for a week, whatever version they sent him, I mean, it could be lacking that day one patch, From an immersion stance, yes, I wish there were many different dialogue options and not the same thing over and over, but I'm also more interested in the loot than the dialogue. I mean, are we really going to criticize this game for saying the same dialogue over and over again? Really? Those of you in the chat that play Destiny, you go and run a strike, and you go and run a Nightfall, and they say the same thing that they said the last 25 times, You know the drill. Every time you're going to do a public event, every time you're going to go grab a patrol. That's not uncommon in these games. Now, the credits rolling, okay. But, come on, Skill Up. Come on, Skill Up. These games do that. They create loops within the story, and they say the same stuff. You can literally run missions in Destiny and a dead person talks to you, right? Like, go run those missions and Cade talks to you. He's dead. He is dead. He's dead. Come on. You know what I mean? The credits is a little bit of an oversight for sure, but the dialogue's not that big of a deal. I remember that gets said during those endless runs on Wipe. Yep, that's right. That's right. Too soon? Yeah. So I'm not gonna get him for that one, right? I'm not gonna get him for that one. That's not that big of a deal. If you guys are tuning in, we are covering Outriders Worldslayer release date. It's today. Well, kind of. It releases on the 30th. If you pre-ordered, you can play today. We'll be diving in about an hour and a half when it goes live. If the servers don't go completely kaput, the servers should be fine. I actually don't think this is going to be some monumental turning point for the game. But I cover games like this Monday through Friday in a talk show format like this. We also do gameplay. We also do reaction-style content. Reacted to an Asmongold video yesterday, as well as covering God of War Ragnarok. So make sure and hit subscribe and the bell button. I'm a safe-for-work broadcaster. A lot of people throw me on in the background of their day like a radio show or a podcast, and you can do that because I'm safe for work. I will be gone starting tomorrow. Shows will resume on July 7th, but I'm July 6th. Shows will resume on July 6th, but I will be gone starting tomorrow. Taking a little trip with the fam. What's going on? What are we talking about loops for? What's good, Donut? Either way, it's a pretty weak point. Criticizing repeated dialogue. To be fair, when they've turned story missions into strikes, they've changed the dialogue. I mean, yes and no. No and no. That's not necessarily true. They had alt dialogue. They didn't necessarily change it. They had dialogue that would be random, so sometimes they would say this and sometimes they would say that, right? It wasn't never fundamentally changed. And again, they didn't get rid of Cade when Cade died. You know, you would run those missions, and when you're in the open world and a public event pops up, you know, the guy says the same thing. You know, when you grab a patrol mission, he says the same thing. Like, no one's criticizing games for that. That's not a thing. That's not a criticism that you would hear in another game. Now, again, the credits rolling, he's right. That feels a little weird to be like, wait, isn't this like the endgame content loop? Why are you running credits every time? The alt dialogue started being super important in later seasonal stuff. A 6-month milestone for Reckless Gambit. Enjoy your time away from the desk with the fam. Thank you, sir. One of my biggest pet peeves is when you have dialogue that's different for each player. I would comment on the game dialogue and my friends would be confused. The Curse Strikes had different dialogue from their versions as story missions. The dialogue referenced running it the first time and why we were rerunning it. Oh, okay. Well, it doesn't matter. It's still a thing in games. It's not abnormal for games to do that, right? Like, I hope I didn't hurt the precious Destiny, but that I played the game for 5 or 6 years, and it was just like it got to the point where they did get creative with why you were doing something over and over again, but generally speaking, some of that just felt like extremely self-aware. You know, tons of games do that. You're going to rerun missions, you're going to rerun stuff, and the dialogue's going to proc. I don't think that's any kind of a deal breaker or a problem. They recycle so much content that the dialogue eventually becomes relevant again. That's right, they're playing the long con. One of my biggest pet peeves is when you have dialogue that's different. Oh, I already read that. Outriders has always felt like the Soldiers of Fortune action figures you get at Walgreens, not the real G.I. Joe, just felt cheap. They just felt cheap and shallow. I actually think that, I actually think that the game has a very clear identity, though. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think when you see pictures of guns and armor, you know that it's Outriders. Now, obviously, some of it you look at and you're like, that kind of looks like Destiny a little bit, right? Or depending on the armor they're wearing, you might think it looks like, you know, maybe Anthem or something. Doesn't look like the Division, because the Division is, you know, real world, and you're not running around with skulls and bones, you know, for armor and, you know, look like dinosaur parts. But in general, I do think that when I see pictures, I'm like, oh, that's Outriders. I think that looks really, really good. Lono's dialogue just looped while talking about looped dialogue. That's right. That's right. Lono's dialogue just looped while talking about looped dialogue. That's right. That's right. A lot of you are checking your phone right now to see if something just happened. There's a glitch in the Matrix. I just read his comment twice. Some of the bulky armor in Outriders reminds me of Gears of War Locust and DLC armor. I'm new and I just started playing Outriders. I don't know much about it. The servers don't seem too well, though. Constantly getting kicked. Fricky Lono, I thought my internet died. This is not a blip. He did that perfectly. That wasn't bad. That wasn't bad. I think I did a pretty good job there. I got a lot of you guys tricked. Outriders has fantastic depth to its build diversity with mods and such. No game made early game looting as exciting as Outriders. They did that right. Well, in my opinion, Outriders' biggest problem with the gameplay loop is the sound. I'm dead serious. I think that there are people that think I overstate this, but buddy, I want to be able to be in your game for a long period of time. Right? When I was playing New World for hours and hours and fishing or chopping down trees or going leaf blow, it just felt good to be in New World. The sound, the world, the lighting, the graphics, all of it's playing a part in keeping me in the game. And Outriders, I'm not telling you, I'm not kidding you. It makes it really, really hard to be in there for long periods of time. I'm like, my gosh, it sounds terrible. Skill Up's whole point was they seem like they're here for the first time. That's the pushback, not looping dialogue. Yeah, but it wouldn't be the first game to do that. Again, just because Destiny recently started going back and changing dialogue to assist with that doesn't mean that they didn't do that for like 6 years. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like for 6 years, they and other looters have you rerunning missions and the dialogue plays again, and you kind of chuckle to yourself like, yeah, I know what they're going to say, ha ha ha. Oh, and let's not forget that even though they update the dialogue, it's still going to play identical dialogue on your 17th run, okay? Just because they have an A track, and then they change it to B track on the rerun, and then they keep using it over and over again, it sounds as if they're saying things afresh, and they're not. They're not saying things afresh. They're not coming to realizations anew. It's repeated dialogue, right? So even if in Outriders they're like, oh, look how big this room is, and you're like, well, that sounds kind of stupid on the 7th time. Yeah, well, any dialogue is going to sound kind of dumb once you've done it enough times. You're like, bro, what in the heck? Why we've said that before, right? You're having the Groundhog's Day experience. So I'm not gonna blast anybody for that. Even if you make an A roll and a B roll, for repetition, that's a very slight update, right? Optional clip for loot and map. Oh, he gets into the loot. He gets into the loot and the map design. All right, let's take a peek at this. Let's take a peek at this. I'm actually curious because the intentionality sounded really, really good. Like, I love the idea of loot intentionality. I do. I think that's always super important. Oh, hang on.
Expansion storyline and the newly added endgame activity. It's best understood by taking a look at the map, where you see a main route towards a final boss, as well as a number of optional chambers, each of which focus the loot drops on a specific armor slot. So if you're chasing a pair of boots to complement your build, you can continuously run a specific chamber over and over again to essentially target farm, which is a welcome addition to the game. But yeah, the rest of the chambers all award random loot, and they get harder as you go on, with enemies becoming up to 3 levels higher than your current level when you reach the final few encounters. The map you see here is static. It's not in any way randomized or procedurally generated, and each of the nodes on the map all represent a specific room that does not change, but the enemies that spawn into those spaces can change. When I first saw this map, I really did think this was going to be a lot more procedural than it actually is, like a true roguelike experience where the main route would be randomized, where different tile sets would be rotated in and out, where different bosses would appear. Taya Gratar, the final chapter in the...
I actually thought the same thing. I thought the same thing. That's not their fault, but the impression I got was the exact same as Skill Up. I thought they're gonna have these rooms sort of randomly place themselves in order, and he says that's not the case. Now again, I'm not gonna blast them for that. That's not something that they said. They didn't tell us that was going to be the case. But my impression of the content was that it would have some sense of that randomness or that proceduralness. Again, like almost like how in the Infinite Forest they would take sort of all these individual pieces and connect them in a different order, but the pieces were still familiar to you. They just came in a different order. Now again, they never once set that expectation, but that was my impression. Was like, oh, that'll be kind of a new experience every time, and then you can do these offshoots to target farm. But I think sometimes that just comes down to we're to the point now where we hear certain words and phrases and we're going to jump to conclusions. That's not our fault. That's not their fault. That's just part of gaming. That happens sometimes. They're just like, hey, we're going to have this thing. There's always different rooms and the enemies are going to be different every time you run it. And you're thinking to yourself, oh, that's procedural generated. This can be random. It's like, well, no, they just said that the enemies are going to change. But again, it's just hard because so many games are doing the rogue thing. We're going to be diving into Assassin's Creed Valhalla this afternoon. They're launching a rogue mode today, and we're going to check it out. So, Marvel Avengers had side quest rooms, and you could explore on the maps with different loot always. When's the God of War announcement? Homie, I don't know, bro. I don't have the inside track. I wish I did. I covered that yesterday. More than likely, okay, this is probably what's going to happen. Sony is doing a presentation this evening, and they are presenting like headphones and screens and stuff, right? And I think they're going to announce the Sony State of Play tonight that will take place on the 30th. And then they're going to show extended gameplay with a release date. And then like a week later or that day, they'll have a blog that like outlines all the things they talked about. So you've lost hope in Sony. What are they doing? The event happening today is about tech and stuff, so I don't know. Okay, so we covered this yesterday, so that's all I'm going to say. You can't come in here and hijack the stream because you're butthurt about God of War Ragnarok. Go watch the VOD. Even if the chambers are static, the loot should rotate between what room is located in for sure. I mean, but if they did that, then Enigma, then people would complain, right? People would complain. Like, you can complain about it either way. They're like, if you want this, run this room over and over again. Cool. And if they changed it and rotated it, people would be like, man, if I want that thing, why can't you just let me run the same thing over and over again? You see what I'm saying? I don't think they could win with that design choice. Either way you shake that tree, somebody's going to say, oh man, that we should be able to do it this way or that way. The fact that they're giving you a targeted farm is all that you really need to know. Like, that's all that really matters. They're letting you target farm. They're letting you say, I want this piece of armor, and so that, you know, I'm gonna go and play this room over, or this portion of the trial over and over and over again. If you're tuning in, Outriders Worldslayer release date is today, sort of. It's actually officially launching on the 30th, but you can play today if you pre-order. We will be diving in about an hour and a half to check it out. I'm thinking about which of the two option holds for up better long term. Well, that's the thing. Like, I think both could be annoying depending on the person, right? Both could be annoying depending on the person. Let's just say you really, really need a pair of boots, and you run the same room over and over and over again for those boots, and you get faster and faster at the room. You know the layout, you know where the enemies come from. Even if the enemies rotate, you're like, here we go. I've got this room down pat. I know how to kind of flow through this room. That can be really enjoyable because you kind of get in a content loop rhythm of start, middle, end. Start, middle, end. Over and over and over. Now, if they constantly change where the boots are, you might get annoyed because what's going to happen is you're going to finish that room and then the boots are going to shuffle somewhere else. And the way he looked at the map, it looked like you would have to then leave and go somewhere else, and you might not be able to go back. Right? Where are you taking these new boots? You would go up in difficulty. So there's Ascension, there's Apocalypse tiers, so you would go up in difficulty, right? It's the spiral staircase of a grind, all right? Every game that does min-maxing does this, right? You gear up to go up. You get a greater you get a greater sense of power the more you go up, because you keep getting to turn up the difficulty. Are you off TikTok? It was great for live audio. It was a waste of time until they properly build that to funnel people. I was streaming to like 2 people, and I'm not going to sit there and burn my phone. My phone would get red hot doing it. It took a while. I had to set it up every morning. It just wasn't worth it. Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like I am not going to go through all that disruption in the morning and not have my phone on the desk for 2 folks that could just come to the YouTube channel. It's like, I'm sorry, do YouTube Premium. If you really want audio only, I provide that for free. Well, not for free. It's in the Discord for members, or you could do YouTube Premium. Like, I can't be going. If we were going to be growing and meeting new people over there, I was going to keep doing it. But like, we would spike up to 50 or 60 people, and they would all leave immediately, which I thought was very strange. It was like, we're one of the higher quality streams over there, but everybody's looking for ASMR or booty shaking. Like, that's pretty much all anybody's looking for on TikTok, you know? Now, I could see them categorizing better in the future. I know TikTok is really, really wanting to get into the gaming world, but they don't have good categorization, so you don't really meet anybody. Surprised they don't let you stream through desktop. Seems very limited strategy. You can get permission to stream through desktop. You can. You can get permission to play it. You can get permission to play it through the desktop, but that would require a whole lot more of equipment for me, and I'm not going to do it until there's a reason. You know what I mean? I generally want to get the view for YouTube even when I'm only listening to audio. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. It was too much trouble. If I'd have seen growth, we did it for a couple of weeks. If I would have seen growth, I'd have kept doing it. We saw nothing but decline. There was a couple of days where I had 8 or 10 people, and then I had 4 to 5, and then I had 2 to 3, and then I was literally streaming to myself. Part of that was I didn't have a way to monitor chat, so the interaction was terrible. I need to be able to react right away, and I couldn't because I couldn't see my phone. My phone was like up on a thing, so the camera angle was good, so I couldn't see what people were saying. I had to have a second device. I was in the chat as a mod, and I was like, I couldn't react to people in real time. Isn't the going up just the same content? Don't you need floors to stop at, explore, hang out as you climb the spiral? No, plenty of games do this. Like, show me a game that doesn't do that. That's the problem, right? You're creating an ideal. Well, show me where that ideal exists. Division 1 and 2, you would gear up, get stronger, so you could go run harder versions of the same content. Now, you might have like some big culmination endgame raid thing, but that's any game. That's why are you going for god rolls in Destiny? Why? So you can rerun the same content you're already running, or rerun the raid numerous times. Why? I want to get god rolls of the armor and the guns. Why? Where are you going with that? What are you doing with that? Where are you taking it? Back into the same content, right? Div 1 had content drops? Right, but every content drop is an encased experience where you exhaust that content and then you start min-maxing to go up the spiral staircase of difficulty. You're acting as if that's not the common practice and they're doing something anomalous or weird. You had multiple levels of content to run, same with Div 2. No, you run the same content at harder difficulties. That's what Division offered. That's what Outriders offers. This doesn't seem to be a strange decision from the developers of Outriders. You know what I mean? When you run rifts in Diablo 3 or Diablo like 3 seasonal character, why are you getting stronger? Why are you equipping why are you trying to get gear sets and get better so you can increase the difficulty and run more rifts? That's it. There is not a game out there with an infinitude of experiences. Like every time you get stronger, you're like, well, yeah, now I can go do this brand new thing I've never done. No, you get stronger and run that loop again, maybe a little bit faster, maybe it's harder, maybe when it's harder you get cooler stuff. I don't know. That's the format. Div had the DZ, the underground, raid-like missions, legendary missions, ETZ. Dark Zone was a joke and has never gotten better. Underground was, again, content that you would rerun over and over again. The raid-like missions were, again, missions that you would rerun over and over again. You're just listing things you would run more than once with your better gear. From what I know, Outriders has no variety in its content. It doesn't have 12... What are they called? What are those things called? I forget their names now. They have the Trial of Gari or Guitar, whatever they're adding, okay? And then they have all of their expeditions. Is that what they're called? They have, what, like 12 expeditions that are all getting updated with all the new levels and all the new potential drops. So you can go back and run all 12 or 13 expeditions and take them all the way up to the Apocalypse tiers. And that's where all the endgame variety is. Right? How many Nightfalls do you get in a season of Destiny? Right? And you run those and they rotate the drops and they rotate what you could potentially get. Right? It's a very similar format in Outriders. You have like a list of missions and you can keep increasing the difficulty and keep going up. I agree, Outriders has no defense mode, no survival mode, no capture mode, no escort mode. I don't know why it would need any of those things. That seems to be every game. As long as there's a way to make the instance different every time I run the content, then I can deal with. I just want to see them attempt to make the game fresh. Well, you're talking about technology that exists, but it may not be applicable to a game like Outriders. Sure, it would be awesome if, like, every time you ran an expedition, it, like, randomly generated everything. Like, that's why the Rift system in Diablo was so brilliant, is they created... That's why the dungeons in Diablo 4 are going to be legit. It's always going to be a randomly generated experience. So the content loop is familiar, but the area is new and feels fresh, right? That's why the Rift system works so well in Diablo. It seems like it's basically running a strike playlist over and over again. Yeah, which sounds like what 90% of Destiny what has always been. Like, Destiny just takes the strike format and puts it somewhere else. Like, really? Are you going to put me in this chair and make me do this and show you that virtually every piece of content Destiny has ever made is just a strike? They're all just strikes with different names and locations. Every time they did a seasonal content loop, the last time I played, you had that thing you would do out in the open world and then you'd go off on some track. It was a strike. It was formatted like a strike, a beginning, a middle, and an end. A bunch of stop points where you kill a bunch of adds and majors, and then the door opens. You go through the door, another door closes, right? You kill a bunch of adds and majors, and then the door opens, and then you get to the final room, you kill a bunch of adds, and then a boss comes out. And when you kill the boss, stuff drops at the end. That's like every single piece of Destiny summed up. Sure, Destiny raids add mechanics, and dungeons add mechanics, but they're all strikes. The whole game is a strike. That's all it is. If I all have beginning, middle, and end, that makes a strike, then all games have strikes. No, that's not what I was saying. Every single piece of Destiny content is go into a room. There is a door that is locked. Kill everything in that room, and then the door opens. Just because they don't call it a strike doesn't mean it isn't exactly the same as the strike playlist. They're just calling it different. They're calling it by some other name. What was that thing that I played? I don't even remember what it was. They were like these strongholds or something. You'd go and like the Cabal had all this stuff set up, and you'd have to like fight them and slam balls, because that's, plates and balls is all they can come up with. It's like somebody went to clown school and that's all they remembered was plates and balls. So everything is a plate or a ball in Destiny. You stand on a plate, you grab a ball, you throw a ball, right? And the reason people keep going back, Battlegrounds. The reason people kept running Battlegrounds and no one said, this is basically a strike. I mean, I'm sure people said that. But the reason they kept playing is because the gameplay loop is good. So the reason you're going to keep coming back to Outriders and rerunning the 12 or 13 expeditions or the Trial of Taria Guitar or whatever the frick, the reason you're going to run it over and over again is because it sticks to a formula that's familiar to the game and you enjoy the gameplay loop. And the entire time you're doing it, you're getting drops that might be better than what you already have. That's literally Destiny. FYI, Lono, that thing you're talking about is now on the Strike playlist. Gee, I wonder why they follow that formula. Where's the raid or dungeon type activity? Where's the break from the Strike playlist? What do I get to do with the stuff I grinded for a few months? Well, they have the final one that's like the big bad called the Eye of the Storm or whatever. That would be in their mind like the end dungeon. It's again, dungeons and raids in Destiny are just strikes turned up to 11, right? And they have that in this game. They have the Eye of the Storm, and now they have the Trial of Taria Guitar, whatever the frick. And the Trial is basically a much more, from what I gather, I've not played it yet. From what I gather, it's basically their new idea for how to do endgame content. You create this big environment, you have all these different rooms, you give the person loot intentionality, and then they can continue to run that loop with that intentionality, and then as they get stronger, they can increase the difficulty, so they can start to get better drops, and they can get stronger. Which is no different than Destiny. Like, once you get strong enough, you're like, okay, I don't really need this stuff from Strikes anymore, I'm gonna go run Nightfalls, which are what? Harder versions of Strikes. For what? Better versions of gear or particular drops. I'm going to go run a dungeon, which is basically a really hard strike with mechanics. And why am I doing that? Well, because there's loot that drops in there. And so, I don't see the difference, because I played Destiny for 6 or 7 years, and I think a lot of people, because they like it, they don't see it for what it is. They create the same formulaic content loop, and they just keep giving it to you. I always said that there was Jim Gaffigan's stand-up bit about Mexican food. He said Mexican food's the same 3 ingredients prepared differently. It's a tortilla with meat, cheese, and vegetables. That's all it is. Like, whether it's a taco, a burrito, or a quesadilla, that's what you do, is you take a tortilla, you put meat, cheese, and vegetables in it, and you just prepare it differently. I said, Destiny's Mexican food. And I did this in a defensive way. I was like, it's Destiny, it's Mexican food. If you love it, you can always get the same basic content loop prepared in different ways, right? Are you running an adventure? Are you running a lost sector? Are you running a strike? Are you running battlegrounds? Are you running a nightfall? Are you running a dungeon? Are you running a raid? They are literally all prepared the same way. They're just put in different orders and have varying degrees of like difficulty and mechanics. It's the same dadgum content loop. You land, you go into a room, you kill everything, and then the door opens. And then you go into another room, and you do it again. And then you do it again and again, and it culminates in a boss fight. Now, those rooms, mechanics, and things that need to be satisfied change in size, scope, and difficulty, but that's the Destiny formula. And it works. Why? Because it's familiar, and because it's fun. You don't land in some new piece of content, and you're like, oh man, what in the frick are we supposed to do? I can't figure it out. It's like, shoot everything, you dum-dum, and then the door will open. Well, that didn't work. Are there plates to stand on? No. Are there balls to throw? No. Are there motes to collect? Yes. There you go. Like, that's why it works. So to come at Outriders and be like, well, it sounds like it's just a lot of the same type of content. It's like, yeah, like every other literal loot-based game in existence. You create a very familiar formula, stick to the formula, change the sizes of the rooms and the difficulty and the mechanics you got to satisfy, and dump loot on people, you know? And if they like your content loop, they're going to keep going. Moody with the $5 tip, thank you. There's at least variety in that versus just harder difficulty of the same missions you've been running since launch. Well, again, everybody's going to approach it a little bit differently, Eugene, so sure. One thing that they did in Outriders, and I don't know if they've fixed this, they had the bounty hunts and the monster hunts, which were very different types of content. I believe, I don't want to speak out of turn, I believe you can now go run those at endgame difficulty to get all those pieces of loot at the max difficulty. I actually thought that the monster hunts and the bounty hunts in Outriders were some of the best content, and I criticized them for that. I said, this should be endgame content, because you could always do it. It kept it varied, it was good variety, and you get to the end and you get an awesome drop. Yeah. It is. It's excellent. 10 out of 10 coffee this morning. You guys can't order this. This is the holiday stuff. Apocalypse tier is now in all content. There you go, Eugene. That's actually an answer to what you're saying. They took two of the pieces of content that is the most varied, and I think some of the best content they've made, and they brought it up to the end game. That's exactly what they should do. So if you don't want to run a bunch of expeditions, you don't have to. Go run the bounty hunts. Go run the monster hunts. They're actually quite fun, and they culminate in a drop. And you can like work your way through and get all the legendaries to drop, and then they would all drop at Apocalypse and all have the extra mod slot. With the new system, you can run the whole game at the higher difficulty. Right, which I would maybe argue that SkillUp is missing that in his review. I've not watched his review. I'm trying to be fair, but maybe he missed that. They brought the entire game to the end game. That's great for a brand new player. You can enjoy every square inch of Outriders at the toughest difficulty. Everything that drops is relevant at that point. Yeah, I thought that was going to happen, Eugene. Yeah, I thought I thought somebody was going to speak and be like, no, that's not happening. And that's exactly what he should do. Frick him. You can't have me or my face. Frick him. I actually think that's a total power move, because coming back would be great and make a ton of money, but I think it's a total power move to be like, frick you, Disney, I'm not coming back. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. If I ever got unbanned on purple, it'd last one day. I'd go live and be like, frick y'all, I'm over here now. Grand opening, grand closing. Like, frick you, I don't need your platform. Outriders is about the builds and the mods. It's so much variety, you can almost make any combination of gun you want. Well, and that's where the real players, I think, real players, I'm not trying to gatekeep. That's where, like, the loyal players live. Right? The loyal players are going to live there. They are. They're going to min-max. They're going to come up with crazy builds. They're going to try all sorts of different things. I'm not that kind of a player. I just want to do the looties and shooties. Like, I'm never going to go all the way up to that level of dedication. I wonder if they also brought up the base campaign into Apocalypse tiers as well. I don't know. Somebody, no studio offers 300 million. They would do nothing. That would be nothing but they would just nothing but lose. They'd lose tons of money. I wonder if they all. I love the mod system. Only the loot that drops in expeditions is relevant. If you're level 50, then you only get the level gear from level 50 expeditions, not the open world. Okay, so you can't run the original campaign, but you can run the monster hunts and the bounty hunts and get relevant drops. That's what they said in the one presentation, and people in chat just confirmed it. So unless we're all misinformed. Like The Rock was the highest paid actor last year at 87 million. Yeah. Playing through the story once or twice and sampling a bit of the end game until you get bored, it's a perfectly valid way to play the game. For sure. You can upgrade all drops to 50, says Victor. True, I did not think about that. The end game is what drops above player level. You can replay the whole game in the new Apocalypse tier, says Roic. So I have people telling me you can replay the entire game at the Apocalypse tiers. Mo says, yes, you can. The whole game is in Apocalypse. That's the new tier system. Well, I want to experiment with that, because that to me sounds good. Like, that sounds like exactly what we've always said is don't invalidate all your dadgum content. We've always said that. I've said that about so many games. It's like you get all the way to the end game and then you turn around and nothing's relevant. What were we playing recently? We were talking about New World. The Reforged Roundtable has returned, and we've brought it to this channel every Friday. Not this week, obviously, because I'll be out of town. But the Reforged Roundtable has returned. And Ginger Prime and 30 and So Gaming are on there with me. And recently we were talking about that in New World. And when New World first came out, that was the first thing I said is, why in the frick did you make these amazing dungeons with actually impressive PvE mechanics for a game that was meant to be PvP only, and they're irrelevant as soon as I'm beyond their level? That doesn't make any sense. You made 6 dungeons at launch, and only 2 of them mattered once you were max level. I was like, why wouldn't you go back and do a hard mode, mutator, modifier, something, so that I could go back and run those dungeons and get that gear where I am? And guess what they've done? They've done exactly that. So to me, I thought the same thing about Outriders. It's like, anytime you build a piece of content, somebody in the room should be asking that question. What is this content going to look like once the player is in the end game? Oh, this content doesn't matter once they're in the end game. Can you figure out a way to make it matter in the end game? No? Well, then don't build that. If you're building a game that's intended to have endgame content loops and ongoing play, these are the things you must ask. If not, you're wasting your time. You're going to make entire missions. I used to moan about this with Destiny. It's like, you make these amazing campaign story missions, and then we never, ever see them ever again. What an absolute fundamental waste. And eventually they started agreeing with me and completely structured their content differently, with a smaller focus on story missions, and instead started doing weekly story enhancements where you would rerun the same areas, because it was like, why aren't we getting capital out of the stuff that we built? Replayability of the entire original campaign, mon hunts, bounties, and expeditions in the new tier system. Yeah, that sounds great. Boss fights and monster hunts will be wild at 40. Oh yeah, because you want to know what my concern is about that? When does it drop? Outriders Worldslayer releases in about an hour. It actually formally releases on the 30th, but early access today for those who have pre-ordered. If you guys haven't done so yet, smash that like button. Viewership's been really good today, and if you haven't hit subscribe, if you haven't hit the bell button, do those things. Yo, what's good, Bill Poggy? How are you? We've got a ton of new subs today as well, so thank you for that. We appreciate it. Seasonal story missions now are selectable each week and actually have a loot incentive and are part of the loot loop. Yeah, because it felt so stupid. It was like, we played some amazing missions one time, and then you're like, yeah, we never went back. Why not? Why not? They were good. You think you might do another Fall Guys play night? Yeah, July's community game night will be Fall Guys again. I'll get with Hilly and see if there's a Friday that works for him, and that's what we'll do. The biggest thing for Outriders for me is it's not ongoing. Yeah, I think they have all the signs of an ongoing game. They just refuse to do it. A lot of Starfield stuff has come out. Apparently, you can fly around in the atmosphere on each planet. Maddie has a vid. Yeah, I missed that. Today that wouldn't have fit with today. It's not on Game Pass. Yeah, I know. Outriders Worldslayer is it's not on Game Pass. It actually costs money, so you Xbox guys aren't going to play it. Andor actually looks pretty good, I think. We'll feel the same way. Lono will feel the same way he did about Obi-Wan. We know what happens to him in the end. That is not a good summary of my thoughts on Obi-Wan. That's not what I said about Obi-Wan. I didn't say that it was a bad show because we know what happens. I didn't have like blinders on going in thinking it was going to be amazing and they were going to do something crazy. I knew what happened to Obi-Wan before I watched episode 1. That wasn't my critique or criticism. You get $5 off with Game Pass. July is good. Just let me know when. Okay. Oof. I was trying to get more neck pops. Only one. I didn't mean that as it was a bad show. Yeah, but that I didn't feel that. I didn't have my feelings about Obi-Wan had nothing to do with like, oh, I know what happens to him. That wasn't the crux of my criticism. That wasn't. That was like the teeniest piece. You were talking about like narrative or something. I forget the term you used. Yes, they too consistently used a narrative of tension that got weaker and weaker as the show went on. If they would have done it once or twice, it would have been just fine. Yes, you know in the back of your mind he has narrative armor. Yes, you know in the back of your mind he survives, but it works. I'll give you an example. The scene where Owen and Aunt Beru are in danger. It worked. Why? Because it only happened one time. You know when they get torched and how they get torched, you know they get through that, but it worked because they only did it one time. That was the problem. Andor may fall into that category. Oh, yeah, maybe. Maybe the entire time you're like, oh no, he might die. It's like, we know he doesn't. You should play Multiverses. It'll be a great party game for you. Talk to Mike about it. He loves it. I'm glad I canceled my pre-order because it doesn't sound like it's worth playing, says Willie. Did people not like it? I thought 95% was good. A few nitpicks, but overall loved it. I'm in the opposite spectrum. The 5% that was good is like setting a bowling ball on a box of tissues. It just nothing to hold up the good parts. John, Dave, and George are rescoring and redoing the last 4 episodes of Obi-Wan Season 1 that were released directly before Season 2. Apparently there's 90-something minutes of deleted scenes that they're re-adding, and they're adding John Williams' score. Where the frick did you read that? If that's true, then I accept everyone's apologies. They're actually doing that. And it's so funny that that's where they're going to start, the last 4. Because what did I say? I was like, episodes 1 and 2 weren't terrible, and then it just got dumb. That's so funny if that's actually true. If they're going to start with episode 3, 4, 5, and 6, the last 4, if that's true and that's what they're actually doing, that'll be hilarious, because that's literally where I jumped off the train. I was like, this show's dumb. Keep Cade's name out your effing mouth. Kathleen Kennedy was awarded a spin-off for Reva, and she edited Obi-Wan to set up Reva's show. Really? That makes sense. I'm telling you, I said the whole time, I was like, they're just setting up other shows. They're just setting up other shows. They're using Obi-Wan. I felt that in my bones. I was like, there's something wrong here. Now that Reva's show has been canceled and Kathleen Kennedy has been removed from Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor is going to be the primary producer. Really? Where did you get all this information? Everything you're saying makes perfectly good sense as to why the show is a steaming pile of garbage. That sounds like some 4chan. Yeah, that sounds like rumor mill nothing. I want actual verifiable stuff. I want something that's concrete. Because everything you're saying is quite literally a perfect explanation of what in the frick happened. But again, it could be 4chan rumor mill nonsense. Because it sounds too good to be true. Natalie Holt did a great job scoring the show. BS undermined her work there. I love John Williams. I know he reworded his themes, but her choices were quite brilliant. I don't think you have Obi-Wan and Darth Vader walking around with, one instance of the Imperial March? Whatever. I don't know. They saved it fine, but come on. Obi-Wan Kenobi movie trilogy, Disney Plus, Ewan McGregor. From Gizmodo. What is this? One of the writers of the original Obi-Wan film talked about the overall Star Wars plans. Is it contained in that article? Sven, what he's talking about? I heard Kennedy's gone, but all the other stuff makes sense. They gotta get her the frick out of there. She is nothing but trouble for the entire franchise. Hand it all to Filoni and Favreau. You need a Filoni, and you need a Favreau. What other big critiques of the show? Writing is terrible. Pacing is terrible. The scenes feel like they were done in a single shot. There's so many problems with the show. It's not even worth getting into. She played with those themes as if they were incomplete. Imperial March plays out fully near the end when Anakin's managed to shift to Vader. Musically, it's smart. Yeah, Williams has said he's retiring after Indy, so I don't... Well, but they could just take the original music, Eugene. They don't necessarily need him to score it. I don't know. Yeah, and Bryce Dallas Howard. Yes. Outriders Worldslayer is releasing today in about an hour. And we got balancing patch notes. Let's take a look at this. Is this new and relevant? Let's look at this and not get stuck on Obi-Wan. Here we go. This is on the Reddit. Outriders Worldslayer launch balancing. This actually looks kind of cool. Look at that little animated GIF. I'm telling you, they're branding. I'm telling you, this game, when the CEO said they see this as a franchise and not a single game, you actually can get the sense of that in that animated GIF. Hey, somebody ordered some coffee, Anodyne, ordering a bag of light roast, Reforged roast, man. Thank you guys so much for supporting the coffee. I was on the phone. I've never once in my life read anything on 4chan. I would just absolutely love to know where you got the info, though. I would love to know that. This is a secondary thread to the Outriders Worldslayer launch information thread. Please check that thread to find out everything you need to know for Worldslayer's official early access launch and more. Too long didn't read. When Worldslayer launches, everyone will be affected by the balancing pass, whether you own Worldslayer or not. Combat should feel more engaging, controlled, fun, and fair. Balancing index. So we got the balancing introduction. Okay, let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's make this a little bit bigger for you guys. I know a lot of my audience is a little bit older, so you know, I'm going to make the text a little bit bigger for you. Worldslayer will be introducing a host of new features and systems while also changing and expanding upon some of the things you will already be familiar with. These are changes that have been in the works since the New Horizon update last November, with hundreds of entities within the game being affected in some way. Bearing that in mind, listing out minute changes line by line would be both overwhelming, and it would leave you without the context of Worldslayer's balancing that can only be understood by playing Worldslayer. However, as we are always keen to share with you what we've been up to, we will use this point to share the overall directions and balancing philosophies that have underpinned the upcoming changes. Understanding these should give you an early insight into the changes you can expect when launching Worldslayer next week. Most of these changes were tested during the Worldslayer betas earlier this year. Thank you again to all the beta testers, and they seem to land well with the players, so we're excited to roll them out to everyone else next week. Foul on the play, there you go, all the Lono olds, there you go. What follows will hopefully give you a bit of insight into what is coming, and will also point out how much we tried to focus on improving the player experience and buffing aspects of underperforming content. This should give you the trust that should we ever need to address something, we will do our best to do so in a positive way, and that a nerf would only be implemented if we were unable to resolve associated problems with any of the other in any other way in a reasonable time frame. That's poorly written at the end there. It's like problems in any other way in a reasonable time frame. Update is live on Steam. Okay, hang on a second. All right, let's scroll down here. All right, general state of combat and difficulty. To kick things off, let's take a quick look at how the original game's combat shaped out to be in the endgame. At launch, Outriders combat was extremely volatile. Pun not intended. Some of you will likely remember some of the spikes in difficulty when trying to progress through expeditions. For some players, these spikes were like hitting a brick wall, something they felt they simply could not overcome. Our pre-launch version for Outriders was that progress through challenge tiers would take time, and that it would take a great deal of experience, knowledge, and build optimization to push through those spikes. While some players appreciated the challenge, we do understand that many others were frustrated, thus spawning the carry culture, where some players wanted to be carried, especially through challenge tiers 9 and 10. All right, hang on a second. I'm just gonna, you guys don't need to see what I'm doing. I'm just gonna switch inputs on my monitor, and I am going to make sure I have the update on my Xbox. There we go. It kicked me out. Click the update button. Buzz Lightyear is getting a DLC in Minecraft. That looks dope. Okay, there we go. Mine is updating on Xbox. Okay. With Worldslayer, it is our aim to bring more streamlined and stable environments for all players. With the introduction of Apocalypse tiers, which replace challenge tiers, even in the base game, we were able to look into the enemy damage curves and make them less steep. Guys, could we get 300 likes on this video? Additionally, we further reduced the spike threshold and adjusted the amount of damage events occurring within a second. You may remember the spike threshold damage events within 1 second discussion from when especially glass cannon players suffered from what was thought to be one-shot deaths. The changes introduced in Worldslayer will decompress the difficulty curve across tiers. In essence, playing through the Worldslayer campaign on low and mid tiers should provide a much more pleasant experience as opposing to climbing challenge tiers. The difficulty will then ramp up on higher tiers, compounding into an endgame challenge, which those players aiming for the most difficult challenges will still appreciate. Yeah, exactly. And note that we are keeping a close eye on difficulty and progression in Worldslayer, specifically the speed at which players progress through Apocalypse tiers and when or if they get stuck somewhere. We may adjust this progression in future depending on player feedback and our data. We'll keep an eye on whether players are progressing into tiers faster and their gear can keep up, which can lead to difficulty spikes, and whether progression into higher tiers remains fun. All right, here we go. Build sets, mods, over and underperformers. Over the past year, despite our best efforts, there was a visible gap between certain sets or builds. Reasons for this may vary between either set bonuses or keystone mods, but the net result was that there was a pool of builds that were simply not competitive enough to sit comfortably along the meta builds. Examples of those meta builds include the Borealis Technomancer, Akari Pyromancer, Seismic Commander Devastator, and post-New Horizon, the Trespasser Trickster. Unfortunately, balancing patches can only go so far, and we weren't able to fully bridge the canyon caused by the differences in output between these builds and others. Despite our intentions to end the time trial meta by removing timers from Expedition and thus allowing players to take as long as they wanted with the content, we still observe that many players continue to gravitate toward the meta builds mentioned above. I don't want to be rude, but wake the frick up. If they honestly thought, if they honestly thought removing the timer was going to get people to stop running meta builds, then stop making this game and go make something else. You don't understand the fundamentals of player behavior if that's what you thought was going to result from removing the timer. I am not trying to be rude, but my oh my, does that reek of just being naive. You honestly thought, well, we're going to remove the timer and meta builds will decrease in usage? No. Let me pull my other cap card up just to make sure. Yeah, it's updating. There we go. That just seems incredibly naive to think that. Anyway, I'm not going to blast them too hard for that. It's a bit of an offhanded remark, but there are other things you need to do if you don't want just constant meta building. While it was absolutely possible to complete the Challenge Tier 15 expeditions with other builds or sets, the natural inclination to pick meta-building builds over others remained. This was quite sobering to observe. Good, you shouldn't have thought that would make a change, as it took away from the core Outriders drive to have fun wreaking havoc and whatever builds one mind could come up with. And while we acknowledge that the burden of optimal play is more often than not the deciding factor in choosing what to play, we stand by the philosophy that players should be able to forge fun in their own way instead of being railroaded away from specific builds just because they deal less damage. A preferred playstyle should not be sacrificed for the sake of performance. Likewise, killing enemies fast should not be the only determining factor whether a build in Outriders is viable or not across the entire spectrum of skill. Okay. Furthermore, we found that a majority of players were using certain mods or builds in unexpected ways, perhaps because these elements did not fit the community vision of the respective build. Rather than attempt to force through their original design, we have tried to bend those things in a way as to better fit with the community and what they were trying to do with them. We also know that some base game sets and mods did not offer any real effective combat value or had fundamental hindrances, and were subsequently perceived as lackluster. We gave them an extreme makeover, and we implemented balancing changes so that such sets and builds could offer unique playstyles instead of just copying what other top-tier meta ones did. What Worldslayer also allowed us to do was to make complex changes beyond simple numerical tweaks. With all this in mind, we rebalanced the top performers to bring them in line with other build options, while at the same time buffing the underdogs to level the playing field. Now, see, that's actually very important because that means they don't have to rein them in as much, okay? they don't have to rein them in as much. If they have to rein them in and then that's all they do, then it's going to be really devastating to those builds. But if they rein them in while also buffing other builds, it should allow those nerfs to be less severe because of the buffs. Here are some examples. The Torturer set has become a dedicated Hypercleave set, sharing a portion of the main target's damage with all enemies affected by its aura. The Plague Sower will now not just provide a defensive benefit, but will also add offensive boost against enemies suffering from Toxic. Early on, we mentioned fundamental hindrances. We had a look into why certain sets were able to perform to some degree, but were ultimately never able to spread their wings. The Martial set as an example. For the Martial set, we remove the target limitation, which will allow players to more readily capitalize on grouping multiple enemies with endless mass. Then there's mods. We had an extensive look at which mods are must-haves, which were consistently underperforming, and which simply did not support their own dedicated playstyle. We reworked those too. A quick example. The Asunder mod for Earthquake now reduces resistance instead of armor, which means that it will directly increase the damage of anomaly power Devastators would be relying on. There are, of course, many other tweaks, many of which are aimed at providing improved cohesion and synergies with their associated builds. Weapons balance. The state of the weapons meta was another big topic of discussion, both within the community and internally. We saw the over-reliance on tactical variant assault rifles, which proved to be very powerful all-rounders. Instead of simply nerfing the tactical variant, we took a broader look at all weapon variants to see how we could increase the fun and viability of other weapons and variants. While nerfing the TAC AR would likely have been the easier and faster solution, it would probably not have solved the underlying problem that the underplayed types had in the first place. To use the metaphor of a 200-meter sprint, it would be like untying the laces of one contestant while the others still are running barefooted. Sticking with the metaphor for a moment, we chose to provide footwear for everyone else. That's actually a good philosophy. We looked at which weapon types struggled in that way, and we aimed to provide precision buffs in places where we had the capacity to do so. Most commonly, you will see tweaks to damage and range for many variants, as well as changes to accuracy, stability, RPM, and critical multipliers in others. These changes were tested during the most recent Worldslayer beta and seemed to have a big positive impact on how players felt about weapon balance overall. It is our hope that Worldslayer brings a breath of fresh air to the weapons pool, and that players will finally be able to run with the gun and variant they prefer instead of the one they feel shoehorned into. Amplifier builds, long live the king. Have you ever done your math homework? We have for Worldslayer. During the course of the game's life cycle, we observed the unchallenged dominance of percentage damage multipliers as build components, which enabled hyperscaling of the highest order. You don't say. Jiminy Christmas, this was all outlined a month into the game's launch. The best performing builds were mainly comprised of passive percentage amplifiers gated behind simple conditions, leaving very little room for personal preference or unique gameplay ideas. The notorious pre-New Horizon Fortress is a good such example, as it provided a flat but huge percentage increase to damage with no skill or gameplay required. Man, this sounds so familiar to another game I used to cover. Damage buffs are dangerous. A more current example would be a common weapon-based Borealis Monarch Technomancer build. This build stacks Freezing Boost, Shatter, Radical Therapy, Euthanizer, Dark Sacrifice, Purge Nodes, Long-Range Damage, and a few other such amplifiers. This relentless stacking on high-value amplifiers led players multiplying their damage nearly 5 times over, all for the single unique cost of being able to calculate it all, which could be easily done even outside of the game itself. In Worldslayer, we have carefully considered our stance on such builds, and we feel that if a build pieces that require very little active gameplay effort remain as potent as they are, other builds or ideas will never get close enough in output to match them. Again, the Fortress rework we implemented last year is a good preview of that philosophy, as we, as much as possible, tried to maintain its overall strength, but added gameplay requirements to triggering, like landing and stacking successful shots. One of the biggest balancing changes in Worldslayer that you will observe will be the reduction of percentage damage multipliers across the board. Our intent is to move those pieces of build progression from the absolutely essential category to make them fit in as more supplementary to builds. With new content being released, rather than continuing to uphold gameplay elements that are in effect nothing more than higher numbers being displayed on the screen with very little thought or concentration required, we wanted to actively engage players to be able to use and rely on their own player skill. Sounds like Well of Radiance to me. However, this does not mean that amplifier builds will no longer be viable. There is still a place for them in the grand scheme of things, but they should ideally no longer hold the dominant and unchallenged top spot. This is one of the many steps we took in creating a more equal environment for different builds and playstyles. Triggers. As part of our work to improve overall balance in WorldSlayer, we took an intensive look at the many triggers on both weapon and armor mods. As always, we closely watched how different triggers behave in solo versus co-op environments and how reliable they tended to be. The biggest problem we hear on the on-kill triggers, as there was an extreme swing in their reliability when comparing single to multiplayer player sessions, especially when the peer-to-peer connection relied on a less than ideal host. Connectivity aside, in both solo and multiplayer, on-kill effect were also found to be unreliable, as they would not trigger if an enemy was killed by damage over time status effects or other factors. There were also cases of very hard-to-fulfill triggers, such as Aura of Force mods, critical on-kill trigger providing anomaly power. In a realistic scenario, this triggers would be highly unlikely to occur for dedicated builds that we tuned to AP damage instead of FP output. We approach these issues in two ways. We streamlined the hard-to-fulfill or unreliable triggers in order to make those mods more effective in the long haul. We also transitioned many of the on-kill or critical kill triggers to successful shot or critical shot. Additionally, by reworking triggers on weapon mods especially, we guaranteed that many defensive and utilitarian mods will now occur when their value is the highest in combat. A good example here would be Dome of Protection occurring on successful shots, which will allow the player to spawn it right at combat start when enemy pressure is the highest. Previously, the mod required players to kill a target with a bullet and then would often only occur when Dome of Protection's effect was less required than the start of combat. Finally, we unified hereditary mods into the same triggers so there would be no dissonance with when switching or upgraded from one to another, such as the Bone Shrapnel to Ultimate Bone Shrapnel. Previously, Bone Shrapnel had an on-kill trigger, whereas Ultimate Bone Shrapnel had a critical shot trigger. That's it for the news regarding balancing. For more news regarding Outriders Worldslayer, please visit the main thread. So, it sounds to me like there's going to be a lot of things that will be toned down and toned up depending on what it is that you like doing, you know. And I actually think a philosophy of we had to trim these things down, but that doesn't mean that that's all we're doing, right? Not to derail, but your Obi-Wan clip actually made me cry. It's pretty funny. It's a pretty funny moment. And that's why I need a Brittany mic, right? I need to be able to walk around. All praise for the Queen. All praise for Brittany, right? Free Brittany. It's amazing, too, that everybody refers to those as Brittany mics as well. It's hilarious. Like, good for her. The mics are basically now hers. Spaghetti code on this game has to be insane. Is down on the Xbox Cloud too. One cannot defeat the meta. You can only hope to join. Did you enjoy Kenobi? No. Just a thing in game dev. We done the numbers so you don't have to. Did you see the new Sonic Frontier details? What's the next show you got going today? We're going to be playing Outriders Worldslayer. And then we're going to be playing the Assassin's Creed Valhalla update. That's getting a roguelike mode. And so we're really excited about that. That could be really, really fun. Unfortunately, the Sonic Frontier stuff I won't be able to cover because I'm leaving tomorrow. So I'll be gone. Shows will resume on July the 6th. Likely we'll kick off my return with God of War Ragnarok gameplay breakdown because I'm assuming that's what's going to be in the state of play. What'd you not like about it? Virtually everything. The update's live for AC. Okay, hang on a second. I hate this 6 episode stuff. You know what's funny, Sweat? The people that liked it all jumped off the rails on the last episode, and I didn't like it, and then kind of liked what they did in episode 6, but it all, like I said this morning, it was like trying to put a bowling ball. Do you ever have like a cardboard box, and you try to set something on the cardboard box, and it just falls straight through the cardboard box? That's what it felt like to me. It felt like, oh, wow, they actually did some kind of cool stuff, and it's just this bowling ball that has nothing to stand on. It just falls right through. Just, boom, down it goes. It's so weird. It's like the people that liked it all jumped off in episode 6. I didn't like it, and then episode 6 was like, this could have been awesome if the lead-up wasn't so terrible. Like, I was the exact opposite. So, I don't know. But the folks that liked it and I are never going to see eye to eye. Just like the folks that liked 7, 8, and 9. Well, I didn't mind 7. I thought 7 was fine. The folks that liked 8 and 9, well, I'm never going to get along. We're never going to agree. We're never going to see eye to eye. It just isn't going to happen. Writing for 6 was horrendous. I thought that the whole time. I thought the writing was so inconsistent and so bad. I don't know. There were so many times, Wheeze, I felt like they literally did it they did it in one take. It just felt rough. Have you ever watched like a low budget indie movie and you can tell that they had to do some of the scenes in one take for whatever reason? That it felt like that so often. It just felt so often like that was one take. What the frick? You know what I mean? It felt super. It just, I don't know. Needed Favreau. Everybody's hoping for that. We're all hoping for that. I'm hoping for that. That they get Filoni and they get Favreau. We're all crossing our fingers for that. Play Favreau, can't do anything at the same time. Yeah. Knee deep in Ahsoka and Mando. Yeah. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Okay, so that has 7 minutes left. Okay, so we'll be good for that as well. I'm actually really excited about that. I am. I'm actually really excited about the AC Valhalla Rogue mode. It might actually be really, really fun. Is this UB doing more UB? They're doing, like, all the way to September, Paul. They're doing celebrations for each game, and it starts today. Now, it's my guesstimation that they will be pulling the lead characters into this Rogue mode. So, this week is both Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And then each week they're like going through, during their celebration they had like a roadmap and they had all these things listed all the way to September. So I think what's going to happen is it's going to be a big event in September. They're probably going to outline Assassin's Creed Infinity and maybe give us a rough sketch, idea, gameplay, trailer, teaser, who the frick knows. But I think this is all leading to a big reveal in September of Assassin's Creed Infinity. And they're going to be taking that. My prediction is that every game's protagonist, you're going to be able to play as that protagonist, and all their weapon sets and stuff are going to come into this rogue mode. So if you really like certain attacks and certain weapons and certain things from Odyssey or Origins, you'll be able to play as Bayek in this rogue mode once his game is up, once Origins is getting featured and celebrated. That's my guess, is it's all going to be housed within Valhalla. Now, some people think all of this is going to be leading to an Assassin's Creed 1 remake. That also could be going on as like a, hey, we really want to celebrate the first game, but I don't know if that would be your big announcement. Are you really going to spend, you know, June, July, August, and September? You're going to spend 4 months leading up to that announcement? What in the frick? Why wouldn't you just announce that, right? That could be part of the announcement, like they'll have like an Assassin's Creed 1 remake for the holiday, but I also think the big announcement's Infinity. I think they're finally going to start talking about it, because I think Valhalla is, I think they're ramping down. What about Bayek? I think you're going to be able to play as Bayek in this Valhalla rogue mode. Drive Shaft, you caught the ring? You caught the ring? You got good eyes. You got good eyes. Let me see if it'll let me in early. Let me see if it'll let me in early. I doubt all the assassins won't work. Arno with his 9-shot pistol would be broken. Well, homie, they would obviously contextualize him to the rogue mode. You have to remember that in a rogue mode, you don't start with anything, my man. You get guns or weapons or whatever as you play. And it's different every time. The combinations are different every time. Bayek's the best assassin. He's my favorite. I absolutely love Bayek. So they would just have to pull in the different abilities and different things, and it would just be a way to honor that character. Let's take a look at this. Let's see if we can get in. Let's see if we can get in and start. Be a little early. They said noon, but you have been logged out. Maintenance. Let's try one more time. You've been logged out. Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go use the restroom. We'll jump into this once it's live, and then we'll redirect to a new stream. I'll have to schedule the new stream. I'm actually going to do that now. Before I go upstairs. Title screen looking lit. It does look pretty cool. I do like it. Okay. Go live. Schedule the new stream. Okay, copy that. Okay, we'll do that. And then we've got this. Outriders Worldslayer. Put it in the gameplay playlist. Get my tags. That's extremely weird. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Yes, we want it monetized. Any duration. A 7-second slow mode because the bots are annoying. Actually, I'm going to set this for 12:15. There we go. Low latency. And then we'll set this one to redirect. All right, I'll be right back. I'm going to run some ads. Don't go anywhere. We're going to dive into the gameplay. We're going to check out the campaign. Wheezy, you got 30 minutes. You might be good. We'll see. If not, I'll be playing either solo or with anybody that's available. Wheezy was going to jump in. He might not be able to. So I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Hit the like button. Subscribe. Consider becoming a member. Order some coffee. If you like my Spider-Man shirt, it's from 80s Tees. Use the shirt command. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Yeah, they are. Oh, they got rid of it. Yo, what's good, TK Lotus? I'm already at 55%, just late. Takes time to go eat. Yeah, there's maintenance going on anyway. I downloaded the WORLDSLAYER upgrade, but it hasn't prompted any updates for me yet. I would restart your entire system and then just try to open up Outriders. That's how I got the update. I got the update by just doing that. Floney is virtually the same. Producer. Oh, you guys are still talking about all that. Okay. All right. Thank you to all the new subs today. Appreciate that. Corey 90 as announced. Yeah, they just haven't taken it down. They probably didn't do a formal public. They didn't do like a formal public cancellation of that show. They're like, hey, we're not doing it. Showing up on Steam now. I literally just tried to open the game on Xbox and it got the update. And right now, if I try to get in, it just does this. You've been logged out for maintenance purposes. Maintenance, which it should be done in about 25 minutes. Hopefully the servers can, hold when we play. They've had issues with the servers before. For the question, if Starfield has a premium edition to play 3 days early, can Game Pass still keep using the marketing day and date? Yeah, I don't know. But they would probably. Right? Yeah, I don't. Do you think they're going to do that, Paul? There was a balancing update for the base game, but no new features or content in this update. It's paid DLC for the new content. Yeah, nothing other than that. Yeah, the quality of life is free. Yeah. Mostly just listening and love your show. Don't agree 100% of the time, but that's good. I got gifted a membership and wanted to say thank you to whoever gifted me the membership. Thank you. Oh, man, I appreciate that, the Turk. We will be doing a members-only stream today as a send-off before I go on my trip, and we'll be outlining all of our plans for members-only content going forward because we are actually really excited to do more members-only content here. So you can look forward to that. Probably something basically every day. That's going to be kind of the aim. You know what I mean? Does anybody have a link to the balance notes? It's on the subreddit. We read the brief summary. We read their philosophy. You know what I mean? The official release date is different than getting in early. Forza had it. It would not surprise me if that's how if they keep doing that going forward. Yeah, you can play it day and date on Game Pass. You want to get in early? You better pay for the game. You know what I mean? That's how they're gonna try to balance total sales of their first party properties along with, Game Pass benefits. Servers should be stable this time around. I would think so, given that, there'll be less people playing. I don't think it'll be nearly as big as launch. Because, man, when it launched, I mean, what were the player peaks? It was kind of bonkers, wasn't it? What are these things launching today on Steam? Steam's not having a big week either. Like, nothing really launching. It's kind of good for us. We don't have to worry about missing out. Outriders Steam charts. 125,000 on Steam when it launched. That's not that high. It's actually not that high. WorldSlayer's on Game Pass? No, it's not. No, WorldSlayer is not on Game Pass. Somebody was asking, what if they do that with Starfield? So you can pre-order WorldSlayer and play 2 days early, which is what we're doing today, okay? And the question was posed, what if they do that with Starfield? Can they still say day and date for Game Pass? And yes, it's still true that you can play Starfield day and date on Game Pass because the launch date is still set. Does that make sense? Like the launch date of Starfield doesn't change just because you can pay and get in early. Oh, there's a huge Lost Ark update on Thursday? Yeah, I fell out with that game pretty fast, sadly. Sadly. All right, let's set ourselves to the HDMI 2. Wait, is there no music coming through? Hang on a minute. There should be music coming through. Yeah, there's nothing. But my audio's working because you can hear that. You can hear the woof. It's odd. I missed a Starfield mention. I blame Work and Lurk. I read it pretty fast. It was a Discord comment. You can't claim day one Game Pass if they do that. Sure you can. It's day one. If Starfield is launching on, let's just pick a random date. Let me go look at March. If Starfield's launching on March the 14th, and that's its day one debut release date, play it day one, day and date on Game Pass on March the 14th, and they let you play on the 13th a day early if you've pre-ordered the game and paid full price. You're still playing the game day one for free. Early access doesn't negate that. Is a cash grab, and it's funny gamers say, but you're playing it early. Are you really? Oh, you get 10% off on WorldSlayer on PS Plus. The audio setting in the menu will override your system audio device. This happened to me. You may need to go into the menu and change the output device. I might have turned the music off in the game because I usually have my own music going. I might have done that as well, which is why there'd be no music on this start screen. I'll check that when I get in, but I remember the last time we played this, didn't they do something to the dead zone on the controller? You know what I mean? Pretty sure they did something to the dead zone on the controller. These people are trying to find anything to talk about Game Pass? Well, no, I don't think so. I mean, the Outriders was a huge game on Game Pass, so it's a relevant discussion to say, is WorldSlayer going to be on Game Pass? It's also a relevant discussion to say, you know, if they do that with Starfield, like they did with Forza, what does that do to day and date? You know, if you're able to pay and get in early. I don't think it does anything to day and date. Steam had a discount too. Well, because Steam has a no competitive clause, so if you're going to sell something in Steam and you discount it anywhere else, you must discount it in Steam as well. Yeah, there were some people that brought it up and complained that WorldSlayer wasn't on Game Pass. Yeah. Is WorldSlayer any good? It doesn't have the best reviews. I've not played it yet. It sounds like it's getting fine. Like it's getting a score of fine. It's totally fine. It's if you're if you're the hardcore player base, you're going to enjoy it. You know, we're going to play it for however long we feel is appropriate, and then we're also going to check out the Assassin's Creed Valhalla new mode today, which I suppose I'll leave this up. I was going to say, I suppose I could go check and see if that update, the update pushed through. I'm assuming you can just pick it from the main menu in AC Valhalla. That's my assumption on how that's going to work. DLC, even for Microsoft published games, is never included in Game Pass. Well, that's not true. That's not true, because the Destiny 2 Beyond Light was on Game Pass, and that was a DLC, but you had to pay for the season. So yeah, that's not a consistent thing to claim, because there has been times where DLC has been on. You have to pay for WORLDSLAYER? Yes, WORLDSLAYER is a DLC that they are selling. New Horizon was on Game Pass. New Horizon wasn't DLC. It was just a free update that they put in the game. It wasn't on Game Pass. It was just that they updated the game for free. And Outriders was on Game Pass. Do we know if WORLDSLAYER adds anything different, or is it just more campaign? There's campaign. There's a whole new skill tree called the Pack skill tree. There is a whole new challenge tier system's been overhauled, and it's now called Apocalypse tiers, which gives you Apocalypse gear. There is the Trial of Tarja Guitar, which is like an endgame loop where you can target drops. And there is the Ascension levels that lets you add stats and things to your build as well. Yeah, so quite a bit. Again, my main theory is that this is not meant to be a tectonic turning point for Outriders. My contention has been that this is a testing ground for the next game. Love the name change. Thank you. What are we doing first? I'll be just jumping into the campaign. Yeah, new skins, new weapons, new loot. Yes, yeah. What are the Xbox guys complaining about? I don't know if anybody was complaining. There was at least two people that seemed to indicate they were not happy with the fact that WORLDSLAYER was not on Game Pass. I think it's a fair assumption to draw that those were Xbox guys being like, wait, what? It's not on Game Pass? Like, you know. Can't wait to see the AC mode. Don't know how they're going to make something like that fun. I actually can envision it being very fun, because they're going to condense down that feeling of power and getting gear, and it'll always be different. And you'll get to experience all these different ways of playing Assassin's Creed, because usually people settle into certain weapons and certain play types, and they just kind of stay there. The name is terrible. The Trial of Tarja Guitar. Yeah, it's so bad. Yeah. Like, the Trial of Tarja sounds totally fine. The Trial of Tarja. Let's go run the Trial of Tarja. You know what I mean? You cut your hair? Like a year and a half ago. But the Trial of Tarja Guitar, it's like, what? What are you saying? Are you saying guitar? I only questioned it because I thought it was not on Game Pass, but I misheard Lono and thought he said it was. No, not you, Work and Lurk, not you. Before you confirmed whether or not it was on Game Pass, there was at least two people that said it in like a negative way. They were kind of like, what? It's not on Game Pass? Why wouldn't it be on Game Pass? Like, or somebody said something to the effect of like, they're not going to play it because it's not on Game Pass or something. Yeah, no, I didn't have you in mind. You were just clarifying, Work and Lurk. How big of an actual content drop are we getting? So, Skill Up says the campaign is about 3 hours long. I heard 7, so maybe he moved quickly. Maybe he skipped side quests. I don't know. Wish I could hop in and run Outriders with you today. Like back in the day, way too swamped. No worries, Demetrius. Yeah, I thought of you. I thought of you because Wheezy's going to jump in. I thought of Demetrius. I thought of Manny. I thought of... Who is the other one? His name is Meech now. He had a different name back then. Pre-download available. Yeah. New cuts looking fresh. Yeah, I did get it trimmed up. It was getting a little long. Yeah, Cog and Echo play with us. People would say the trial of Taria instead of Taria, and that would stick because of course it would. I'm Meech. Oh, you went back to being Demetrius instead of Meech. That's right. I was like, wait a minute. You keep changing your dadgum name. Skill up's a gamer, probably 5 to 7 for the average gamer, 10 to 12 for Lono. Fully downloaded. Word. Maintenance should be over in about 10 minutes. I'm going to try periodically between now and then just to see if we can get in early. Oh, you have 2 accounts. Got it. This is your work and lurk. Silent Warrior. I played New World and Lost Ark with you quite a bit. Yeah, Silent played a lot when we did Lost Ark and New World. Silent did. Victor did. Manny played back then too. There was somebody that played almost every day with me and Demetrius, and I can't remember who it was. It was somebody else that would just kind of pop off with score. Like, that person and Demetrius were always way above me. Spider-Man, can you think my PC GTX 1654 gig can run it with medium 1080? Oof. You can jump in if we need a third. Okay, Victor. Yeah, Vinny, was it Vinny that played a lot of, it probably was Vinny who played a lot of Outriders with us. Vinny was with us. I wonder if crossplay is working. Hopefully. Yo, Jake just gifted 5 memberships to the channel. Guys, claim them quickly. You get a badge, emotes, you get access to members-only content. There's going to be a huge push for more members-only content in July when I get back from my trip. Virtually every day you should be getting something. Some days you won't if there's too much going on, but by and large, most of the time, members should be getting something every day. Metanoia, Brob, Ryan, Greenman, and CJ the Gamer. Guys, make sure and all thank Jake for that gifted membership. We were doing a stretch goal of 2,000 members, and my wife and I would do a Star Wars Episode 1 watch party. You would need to be subscribed to Disney+. This is a legitimate way of doing a watch party, like nothing illegal. But that was something we were going to do as a stretch goal. We might actually hit 1,800 and unlock an emote. We're at 1,723, so we need about 77 more members to unlock an emote. 1,800 is crazy if we actually hit that before I go out of town. 2,000 would be even more nuts. Screen looks beautiful. You've been logged out. Maintenance. If I don't own Outriders, can I still play Worldslayer? Want to give the game another try? Well, you would just buy the new version, which is like, what is it if you just buy to get in fresh? Is it 45 or 50 or something? You can get everything bundled for a price if you're brand new. Is Worldslayer releasing now? Yes, Quad. Is it 35 if just brand new? So what is it, 20 or 30 to upgrade? Buy the upgrade, not the full game. If he doesn't own the game, he has to buy like the bundle. There's 2 versions. I was with you mainly in New World and Lost Ark, says Vinny, but I'll join Outriders as well. Yeah, there was somebody. I can't remember who. 45 brand new. Yeah, it's like you got to buy it bundled, brand new. You can't just buy it. Yo, it's good, Zubair. You can't just buy the upgrade. If you just buy the upgrade, it's because you already paid for the full game. 50 or 45 if you own Game Pass. Okay. It's 36 for me. So a fresh purchase with the discount is in like the $35 range. So the problem is we're going to get inconsistent prices because PS Plus and Game Pass holders are going to be getting that discount. And then if you just buy it straight retail, it'll be a different price. Like if you don't have PS Plus or if you don't have Game Pass. Let me feature the next vid, we will be doing a redirect once we can play. Like, once we're in and playing, we will be doing a redirect to an actual gameplay stream. Mm-hmm. Portal 1 and 2 on the Switch, a Portal Companion Collection. That's dope. That's super dope that they're doing that. Bink. Bink. You closed and relaunched and now you're in? Valhalla's only working on the Series X? Yeah, I updated it on my PS5. Yo, what's good, Ray? Hope you're well. Thank you. Skip that. 54 for me? Oh, just straight up 54. Good morning, Lono. Just letting everyone know there's a huge Dark Souls franchise sale on Xbox Game Store. 50 to 75% off. Dark Souls 2, 3, and 1 remastered. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, just keep saying maintenance. Mm-mm-mm. Once we're in, we will do a redirect and a new stream, but it's probably going to be another 5 minutes before we can get in. So it's full 60 for everything. They talked about it in the stream, and I don't remember the price points they outlined. 60 base price for the game and expansion. Okay. If you guys are new and you're hitting subscribe so you can talk and chat, I'm a Safe for Work broadcaster. Usually I am in this scene doing a talk show. Because I'm safe for work, a lot of people subscribe and tune in throughout the week and kind of treat me like video game radio or like a video game podcast. So be sure to hit subscribe, the bell button. I will be out of town starting tomorrow. Streams will resume on July the 6th. So I am bummed. We're probably not going to get to cover the God of War Ragnarok State of Play, which is going to happen Thursday. I believe that's getting announced tonight at the Sony event. 17-month milestone from Matt. I missed my birthday. Much love. Well, happy birthday and welcome back, Matt. There's a variety of ways to support the stream. Smash the like button, hit subscribe. You can become a member. You can gift members. You can order coffee. You can, order a shirt from 80s Tees. There's all sorts of ways to support what we do here. Live streams on YouTube do not run lots of ads. And so all of those other ways are great ways to support what we do. We do not disrupt the show with ads almost ever. It's typically when I'm like going upstairs to take a restroom break is when we hit ads. My buddy, he tried the Reforged Roast. He brought it into work, and now his precinct of Cleveland PD can't get enough of it. Are you serious? Oh, we're going to have an updated web presence really soon, Tattoo, so you'll be able to tell them, like, where to go and order it. You can still send them to the other place if they want to order it, you know what I mean? Zubair wanted to know if coffee orders will be delayed. Yo, Zubair, thank you for 17 months. It's a tier 2. I'm just here for the coffee. If anybody orders coffee today, we will print everything tonight and make sure it all gets delivered. Starting tomorrow, if you order, it's going to sit for a week. We probably will just disable orders starting tomorrow. So you can order today, and we'll print all the labels tonight. We'll make sure everything gets delivered. But then starting tomorrow, your order won't be able to go through. We're going to be updating the web presence anyway. Coffee's so good, and I cold brew it. It's good. It's good stuff. I'm going to keep rebooting the game because I do feel like I do feel like it's saying that it's not even trying. But thank you for a 17-month milestone and a tier 2 as well, Zubair. Thanks for keeping the membership going. You ship to the UK. We do, Mr. Bulldog. We do. However, it is it's not cheap to ship United States Postal Service outside of the US. So it just is not cheap. I actually need to get an order in. Okay, yeah. We'll make sure and do that. I'll shut down today whenever we're done, and I'll relabel all the bags that need relabeled. I'll print everything, and we'll get everything ready to go, and we'll be able to drop it off whenever we leave tomorrow. How do we roast them? We do a medium and a light roast. They're organic beans sourced from Mexico, and we have a roaster that we use. They roast, label, and bag for us, and then they show up at my house. It's all pre-ground coffee. The balanced acidity is one of the main reasons you should try it. If you're a coffee drinker and you've never tried coffee with balanced acidity, you really need to try Reforged Roast. What time is it meant to come out? Like right now. In the next 60 seconds. We hope. We hope. I started late today on purpose to give me some buffer. We don't like our past broadcasts to get longer than 3 hours. So I was worried that maintenance would run over a little bit. And so, yeah. We'll try. Horizon's got a show from Eknor with, I think that's a 10 spot. Thank you so much, Eknor, for the tip through Super Chat. Downloading server configuration, retrieving match. Oh, there we go. Okay. WORLDSLAYER, find out more, blah, blah, blah. We understand that that's what we're going to be able to do. Play with friends. Why don't we get in the game and make sure it's working? And then Apocalypse tier 15? Is that like a starting tier? Okay, so they're outlining Apocalypse tiers are an extension. You will need to access the WORLDSLAYER content to progress beyond Apocalypse tier 15. Unlike World tiers, Apocalypse tiers can be level with any type of content. Yeah, we know all this. Okay. How do I...
Still don't understand how they went back in time to get here sooner.
Okay. Do I need to go back to the home base? I'm a devastator. Quest map. How do I get to the world map? I don't remember. This man just refuses to read. Well, we read all that stuff today already. Talk to the girl? Her Bailey? Oh yeah, we travel with her. I forgot.
You did.
Time to go prepare the truck. Do we have to go back to Rift Town? Pour one out? Can't select WORLDSLAYER? Yeah, where do we go to do WORLDSLAYER? Historian? Big Iron? Shepherd. Oh, right. I see it. It's at the top. It won't work. Press RB is not doing anything. Check your tier and claim all rewards. It says I need to be world. It says I needed to be world tier or. Yeah, I need to be this to get into Worldslayer.
Thank you.
Claim all rewards. Okay. They gave me all level 34 stuff. But it all looks like it's going to be weaker than what I'm using. So now when we talk to her, we should be able to hit right bumper? No. I'm confused. It literally said you need to be able to be on Apocalypse 15 to get in. Try story on the main page. Select story point, maybe? No? Can't select Worldslayer. You go talk to her at the bottom and says travel to Pack City. You gotta get to World Tier 15?
Hey, you. You did.
Time to prepare the truck. I don't see anything about going to Pack City. The expansion's installed. I installed it last night. Somebody on Paul's Twitter timeline says it won't allow me to swap from the main story to Worldslayer. Okay, Pack City is in the bottom right? No, Glacier's Edge. It should be at the top of her options. I don't. Yeah, the right bumper's not working, guys. I appreciate the suggestion. Yeah, I updated it. I've downloaded like if you go here, and you go to My Games and Apps, see all, and you go to My Queue, recently installed, right there's the Worldslayer upgrade. You have a mission right in front of you. Yeah, that's not what this is.
Still don't understand how they went back in time to get here sooner.
You got to progress the full story, then get World Tier 15. I don't understand. I did the full story. I'm a max level character, and I came here and was running these. You can't do that if you don't do the story. Let's travel to Glacier's Edge. Yeah, mine doesn't say that. Go to manage the install and make sure it's installed. What do I click on this? Right there, Outriders Worldslayer upgrade. It's installed. You don't have it updated? There was an update that came out 2 hours ago? No, I got that update. I sat here and downloaded it. I turned on my Xbox. You can't turn on a game if there's an update. Go to updates, you have one available? What? You haven't fully updated, bro. How do you fully update? What do you mean? When you load up a game on the Xbox, if there's an update, it literally doesn't even let you in the game. Like, it literally is like, hey, you can't even load up the game until you get this update. Your DLC is still 10 meg? Level still says 49? I'm a max level character. I was playing the endgame with people. We were running expeditions. I've done everything. I did the story. And I played all the endgame content. It's not my character, and it got the update. I sat here and waited on it. Your DLC said 10 meg. It's much bigger than that, about 30 gig. Choosing this option allows you to enjoy Worldslayer with your pre-existing character. Yes. Okay, now it's acting like it's actually been updated, because it didn't say that to me last time. That's a new prompt that I didn't get the first time I opened the game. Servers are being a little slow. That's probably some kind of an onboarding thing for your character that has to happen. Like, you have to go through what I just did and it, like, onboards you to Worldslayer. But it was acting like I don't know. Servers are melting. Yeah, I'm just sitting here. That's why I haven't redirected us to the new stream yet. I don't want a VOD of, like, Outriders Worldslayer gameplay to be me sitting here doing this. It's fine to have this at the end of a VOD. No one's going to be watching this later. Oh, frick. Try choosing your character again. It was just spinning, homie. There was nothing I could do. Everything was grayed out. Just gave me the same error message as you. Connecting to back-end services. We'll see. Servers are probably just really struggling. Because they have, like, nobody's been playing in any great number, and now everybody's trying to get in. I don't know why they don't do rolling time zone releases. I will never understand that. I don't know how many times you're going to post that, Kalash DG. You're clearly, like, wearing a blindfold and just copy and pasting your advice. You've pasted that, like, 7 times, homie. Are you even watching the stream and paying attention? Or are you literally just addicted to copy and pasting the same thing? Like, come on, man. From what I've seen, if you collected the level 34 rewards, it's bugged. Yeah, this is just everybody who pre-ordered, like, Jiminy Christmas. You hit near 500 players in the servers, Mel. Yeah, come on. This is embarrassing. This isn't even an actual launch date. This is early access for pre-orders. Jiminy. Okay, now I have a different number. So I've been onboarded. This is every game? But on pre-order day? On pre-order day, you don't have enough servers spun up? Okay, now it's telling me about PAX points. You earn these. We know about this. We read all about that today. Okay, do you have any other pop-ups for me? No? Yeah, now she has a star above her head. And now, let's go to Glacier's Edge. Yeah, how do servers melt with like 1,000 people playing?
Outrider, the last drop pod should be just up ahead.
Got it. Drop me here and find a site to make camp.
Better move fast, Outrider. Big storm coming.
Great. Zahidi, I found the pod I'm going in. Looks like you're not the only one trying to get at it.
Outrider, hurry. I need to get the data from that pod before the storm hits.
Okay, so I'm gonna redirect now since we're in. You check the music setting. Yeah, let me check the settings for music, and let's let their music play. Motion blur is still off. Accessibility. Okay, I don't think they've done anything to, like, increase performance. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a link to the new stream, because we don't like having streams that are super, super long. This stream is already almost 3 hours long. So I am going to take us to the new one, okay? I'm going to give you guys a link in chat, and it should redirect you, all right? It should. I'm going to send my tweets, and then we're going to play this first mission. Okay, there's the link to where we're going. Outriders Worldslayer is live. This will be a stream of Outriders Worldslayer gameplay. This is the first mission. It was a little rough. I kind of had to like onboard my character. If you can't go to the girl that sort of transports you, okay, and she doesn't have a mission to take you to the glacier place, reboot your game a couple times. If you paid for Worldslayer and you're all the way updated, it just for whatever reason does that, right? It's almost like it has to onboard your character or something. So we're in. I'm going to redirect everybody from the stream this morning. We covered all the pertinent information. Let me end that previous stream.